everybody. Welcome to the Arsenal Fan Circle, the Thursday night forum. Almost forgotten that one, Stan, because it's been a few shows since we've been on. How are you doing, Stan?
Yeah, not bad, mate, to be fair. Not bad at all. Yourself?
Yeah, listen, I'm doing well. The summer's going pretty fast. I think as summers do, right? Winter's drag, summers go fast. That's how I find it anyway. And waiting for real football to return. It's 51 days. I checked it out. It was 51 days till the 17th of August, and we're back in league action. So, what are we going to do for those 51 days, Stan?
I suppose it's the Euros and then the transfer window.
Yeah, and I think it will happen in that order, right? There's not much happening out there in terms of transfer gossip, and that's all it is. That's all we're going to be talking about is players that we would like to sign, players that there's been a whisper about. And what I'm going to talk about tonight is Eze. You know, a question that was put to me, Stan. Of the links, let's say of all of the transfer links, you can't pick Mbappe, right? Let's say all of the Arsenal transfer links that have been mooted this summer. Which one would you, if you had a card, a get out of jail card or whatever, I forget the cards that you pull on me during these podcasts. You'll tell me anyway. What player would you pick?
Well, the one for me, if we were going to go all out on a player, is Isak from Newcastle. If that was
right, yes. Yeah,
you know,
I forgot about that.
I think that we need, you know, and I know it might be a bulk of our transfer fee or whatever. For me, I think that he is the one that could make a big difference to Arsenal.
Yeah, it's silly of me. I should have known Isak is the player, and you know we've talked about him the last month or so, being Henry-esque in his movement and his finishing.
Yeah, it's, you know, he creates goals out of nothing as well. He can get himself out of tight angles with lots of players around him. Has good link-up play. There are maybe a few question marks about injuries. When he does play and when he is available, he does seem to put in a good return. And it's a shame, isn't it, that before Newcastle went in for him, we also had an opportunity to go in for him. Obviously, there was a bigger gamble because he hadn't played in played in England yet. I think it was around about maybe 60-65 million pounds, around that sort of mark. If you're going to get him now, it's going to be a hell of a lot more. He's proven.
You know, at the time, like 2 years ago, that was, that's a little bit rich for our blood. Now we're talking about players 2 years on, probably another 20, 30 million on top of that, you know, and that's just the market that we live in now. Could have had the chance to get Isak. Eze's a player from Crystal Palace who Crystal Palace had a good end of season under Oliver Glasner. He got them into a good style of playing. He started to use the players in the right way. Mateta, Olise, and now Eberechi Eze. You know, I would definitely go for Isak. If we had the opportunity to go for Isak, I would definitely join you in that one, Stan, because, you know, we talked about Leandro Trossard a few seasons ago. We were both sweet on him, and he had a very good season. Leandro had a very good season taking over from Martinelli. Martinelli had some problems last season, probably an injury-ravaged season. Young players are going to have this, right? They're going to have injury-interrupted seasons. Martinelli had that last season, but Trossard and Mikel Arteta probably recognized that Martinelli wasn't getting there, wasn't going to get some end product to his season. And so Trossard stepped in and acquitted himself very well, second only to Bukayo Saka. So these are the type of things that we need moving forward. And, yeah, you're talking about a player in Isak who maybe has a question mark about availability. But if we add an Isak to a Havertz, then this might be controversial to say this, Stan, but he could miss 25% of our games and we wouldn't really notice it, wouldn't really miss him because we have other deputies to step in. You know, our
Yeah,
squad is 23, 24, 25 then, Stan.
yeah. And how do
You
we
know,
know, to fill in a third striker space that maybe a youngster gets the nod? It's a little bit like Eddie came into the team at some point when he was young. Balogun had a little sniff, so maybe there's somebody else in the wings as well who could come in as that third place striker. Who knows?
yeah, and speaking of Balogun, he scored tonight as well. And he
Really? Oh,
scored,
good for him.
yep. Hmm?
I said good for him. So I mean, the other one that we were looking at was that was really hotting up since the last time that we spoke was Benjamin Sesko. There was a lot of talk about that, wasn't there? But then it turns out that he's decided to sign a contract with RB Leipzig and continue there. So who knows? If the other one that seems to be getting a lot of pace now is it seems to be the focus has gone back to Gyökeres
Kickers, yeah. Yeah.
and Victor Osimhen. And I actually think that now that I'm looking at maybe the landscape, I think there's a sneaky feeling that we could get Osimhen because
Hmm.
now that Antonio Conte has gone into Napoli, he said in an interview that he named a few players. I can't remember who they were. There's a one that begins with K, Cover, whatever his name, the winner. He
Yeah,
said,
he's a winger, Cavacelli or something like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
Petrocelli. He said that there's a few players he's like that, that he wants to keep and work with. But when it comes to Osimhen, he understood coming in that there was already an agreement in place with us, the player and the club about him moving on, blah blah blah. So that's a separate thing. He understands that. So they're also saying as well that the release clause that they've got in place for Osimhen could be brought down because they're not getting as much of a sniff as they thought
Hmm.
that they would get. So
Hmm.
if it could be the right place and the right time, and I believe that we've already had talks with the player in the past and sounded him out, and
Yeah.
he didn't say no. Otherwise, we wouldn't still be linked, right?
So there's a couple of things here. A player of Osman's class, maybe he's going to look at a select few clubs around Europe. He's going to be looking at the a step up, trying to make that step up from Napoli. And there's probably like half a dozen clubs in Europe that would be that step for him. Arsenal
He
probably
does.
being one of them.
I think it's also been reported that he has said previously that he would like his next stop to be the Premier League as well. So that does narrow it
Okay.
down, doesn't it?
That narrows it down to maybe three or four clubs then as
Yeah.
well. You're talking about an Arsenal, a Man City. Well, Man City don't need
No,
an Osimhen
no.
because they've got a Haaland there.
I would say it's probably more likely Arsenal and Chelsea.
Yeah, and if you're looking at that stand, all due respect, Chelsea are a little bit of a batshit crazy club right now. Just talking to my mate in Ireland, Chelsea supporter, I said,
No
it's okay.
Champions League.
I said it's okay. You can,
They've got no Champions League to offer a player. I'm
yeah.
sure Osimhen is not going to want to be out of the Champions League for a season.
And I think even Manchester United winning the FA Cup has knocked them out of the Europa League. So I think they're in the conference right now. Chelsea are the Conference League. I told my friend in Ireland, it's okay to follow. It's okay. Sometimes you can follow. You can find a new club by following some of your players. You could follow Kai Havertz and support Arsenal. He didn't go for it, but he also thought it was a little crazy that Chelsea played well toward the end of the season. Chelsea played well under Poch, and Poch was sacked. So, what do we make of that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, hold on a minute. Just changing.
Yeah, changing your settings.
Yeah, I had a problem with my microphone. I'm probably a little bit clearer now.
Yeah, well, that sounds good. And we're going to be talking about fixtures as well, and we'll get into the Arsenal fixtures a little bit later. But Chelsea open up against Man City at Stamford Bridge.
Unlucky.
Might be. Do you
Unlucky
think
for
there'll
them.
be there could be a squeak to maybe upset the Man City folk, maybe upset Pep. And
I wouldn't want it as my first game. You know, I'd like to get a bit of rhythm going before I play somebody, you know, like
well,
Man City, because especially if a team like Arsenal, you know, hopefully we're going to be in a similar situation, and those are the points that are vital against a team like Man City. It could be like, you know, 3 points, a draw is very vital against Man City if we're going to be going up against them. If it's going to be a repeat of the last 2 seasons.
yeah, we've seen the way that the points are distributed between Arsenal and City had a big bearing
Have you not? Can I
on
just ask though? I mean, have you not been watching any of the Euros?
a little bit. I've been working. I've been watching a little bit, but I've not been able to sit back and enjoy the football. What are your thoughts on it?
You know what? England, man. I've been looking at England, and
Yeah,
I feel sorry for the England players a little bit, because England fans are so seem to be so intense, and it seems to be the same old story where when you're leading up to the championship, whether it's the Euros or the World Cup starting, you know, you start hearing about how England are favourites and this is the best generation, and they start to wheel out that it's coming home,
yep,
you know, and all of that. But then the players get really hammered. There's so much scrutiny on the team and the players and the manager. I don't know if it happens in other countries the way it does with England. It's
yeah,
almost like we have an expectation. For some reason, I don't know why we have this expectation, because it hasn't been since 1966. I was born in '68. It's before my time. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
And I don't know where that sort of like comes from. And I think that if you're an England player, it doesn't matter how good you are in your club and what you've done in the league. When it comes to England, there must be some sort. It must be quite a fearful position to be in. And I think that if you're a footballer and you're playing with fear, then that means that you're not going to take any risk.
hmm,
And what I mean by that is it may mean that when you get the ball, rather than trying to play a ball forward and break the lines,
yep,
you'll play safe and play it sideways or back,
yep, yeah.
because you don't want to be that one.
It's
You
the
don't want to.
fear
You
of
don't want
the
to be that
fear of
one.
losing.
Yeah, you don't
Yeah,
want to be that one that maybe goes to make a ball splitting pass and it doesn't work out, and then it turns over and then it causes a goal, and then you're the one that's being hammered on social media, on the back pages or whatever. So I do kind of feel that, but then also at the same time, being objective and looking at how England have played and how the manager is using what he has at his disposal, you can understand criticism.
yeah.
You
We're
know what I
old
mean?
enough to remember.
Even though we've finished the top of our group,
Yeah,
and you can say that
well,
when you
two
get to this
draws.
stage in the competition, now it's like a reset. However,
Nobody.
if if England do continue in the way that they've been going so far, they're not going to be in it for much longer.
Yeah, there's
So I
been
do
a few
understand the
sides.
criticism. Sorry.
No, there's a few sides in there just won one game and drew two, similar to England. France came second in their group. France didn't top their group, and they're one of the favorites as well. So
Yeah.
England are not alone in underperforming so far. Um, and the real work starts now. But and welcome to Stephen for joining us. Hey gents, hope you're good. Stan, you and I are old enough to remember Graham Taylor, right? And
Yeah.
when he failed to qualify, he was a turnip, right,
That's right.
in the papers.
Do
He
I
was a
not like
turnip.
that? Yeah.
Do I not like that? And
Yeah.
one of our
This
greatest,
documentary is
uh,
it's on YouTube. The documentary about the Graham Taylor and that England tournament. It's quite good.
one of our greatest
There's a lot of stuff on the bench. Do you know what I mean? Fucking
sitting
hell,
on the
what's he
bench.
doing up there? Des Walker's right up there.
We have
Fucking hell, what's he doing up there? It's quite
one
good.
of the greatest defenders in Arsenal's history, Tony Adams. Was depicted as a donkey by the back pages, the
That's
English
right.
the English tabloids. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I definitely understand that. I think you've probably heard about the
Yeah.
Balog thing
Carlton.
where
Carlton. Sorry, Brown is right. It's good. It's a good documentary if you like that sort
good
of stuff.
reminiscing, good
Yeah.
reminiscing. Graham Taylor, Carlton,
But
Carlton.
just talking about this English team, like I'm talking the environment and that. I mean, fair play to Ben White. Fair play
Hmm.
to him. Because if
Yeah,
I was if I was in today's environment, you know, a footballer, and was maybe an up and coming or about to be, you know, being picked for England, I don't know if I'd want it. I don't know if I could be like, you know what, if that's how you're going to be, then just fine. I'll just have an
but
holiday. I'll watch it on TV. And I know that they're going to go, oh, who does he think he is? Bigger than the country. I'll just be like, you know what, I just don't want to deal with all that
you've been
bollocks.
watching you watch any of that overlap stuff with Neville and
I do.
Roy Keane now
Yeah,
and Ian Wright? Yeah, they go
quite good,
after
isn't
Roy
it?
Keane. They go after Roy Keane a lot for leaving the Irish setup. But if you don't personally like the manager, if you have a personality issue with the manager or one of the coaches, it's very difficult to keep going into work. You wouldn't want to keep going into work if you had an issue with somebody in the office. You know what I mean? So I
It's
think
not
Ben White,
only. I'm talking more about not having a. It's not that, you know, about having a problem with the coaching staff. I'm talking about the media and all the social media and
yeah,
all that stuff. I'd rather not be. I'd be like, you know what? I don't want to be in part of any of that. So I'm just going to go on holiday, and I play for my
yeah,
club because I.
yeah,
You
I know.
know, who needs all that?
Yeah,
Apparently, I was hearing that at one of the matches. Um, you know, like they have like the area with the players' families, wives, and families or whatever. They got pelted like with like drinks and cups and rubbish and all that sort of stuff. That's like the players, like, you know, have an area where the families are, maybe their mum or their dad or their wife with their kids and all that. They were getting like pelted.
hmm,
I mean, do me a favor.
yeah, yeah. I know you already have a high
I mean,
profile as a
we finished. I know people playing shit, and I can understand all. I can understand all of the stuff about formations and why is he playing that play and why is he playing him there and all of that. But they finished top of the group, and you're throwing stuff at their families.
yeah.
I mean,
And look,
does that happen in other countries? Is
no,
it like that for other countries at internet? Is it? I don't know. To me, that just seems like.
maybe.
To
I
me, I'd be
mean,
like, you know what? I don't want any of that. Keep it.
I know in Spain there's an intense. The media are always there at the training grounds for Real Madrid, Barcelona. I know in Spain it's intense, but it doesn't go to the families or the kids. You don't have paparazzi following
Brownie said,
kids.
"I bet Carl Walker's kids took up all the WAG section, the
Took a
family
ball
section."
like section. Yeah. And look, here's the thing. Roy Keane had issues with the Irish FA, though. They had no balls when they first turned up for training, LOL. And Roy Keane was used to a Manchester United side under Alec Ferguson, who had standards, and he wanted the best of everything.
You go
Also, as
away though
well,
on a football international training camp, and the one thing that is missing are balls. I mean, come on. I mean, what
yeah,
are we
the
doing here?
facility is not good. Yeah.
What are we doing here?
Did you see Kevin De Bruyne the other day? The Belgian fans were far worse the other day, and Kevin De Bruyne just decided somebody who I don't really personally have time for. Kevin De Bruyne, I don't think I like him too much, but he told the Belgian players just get off the field, don't even be bothered, and that ties in a little bit with Harry Kane and Declan Rice. Declan Rice handled it very well in a press conference recently when he was asked about this, Stan, and he basically said, I know some of the pundits, they're just doing their job. This is paraphrasing, right? They're just doing their job, but when they were in tournaments, did they do any better than us? Did they go and win tournaments? No, they didn't go and win tournaments. So, talking to the likes of Paul Scholes and whoever else are out there.
And again, I see some of these, when they talk to their players, and I saw the one where I was talking to Harry Kane about what Gary Lineker had said, and I listened to it, and I thought that Harry Kane handled it really well.
Yeah,
and spoke about it and handled it really well. But then when you see it in when you open your phone up and you're flicking through whatever, it says like Harry Kane fires back at Lineker's comment. He didn't fire back. He was asked the question, and I actually felt, as much as I'm not a Harry Kane fan, he actually dealt with it I thought he dealt with it really well.
Yeah, and he dealt with it in a similar way to Declan Rice
Yeah.
had dealt with it. So obviously they were talking about it in the changing room. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, this is how you're going to deal with this with the press. I think Declan Rice is
Or
really
maybe they're
good.
just good people.
Mhm.
Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Maybe they're just you know what I mean. It wasn't coaching or anything. That's
yeah,
because with the Declan Rice one, did you see it was like he was asked specifically about some player for Ireland that had mentioned Declan Rice and had
yeah.
basically dug him out.
James McLean. Yeah,
And the way that he responded, saying that I know the guy I played with him, I'm not going to sit here and say anything bad about him. He's had a
yeah,
really good career. He should be proud. I was class.
yeah, yeah. He did not take the bait in any way, shape, or form.
No.
He just
Whereas I would
answered the
have been like, who
question.
the fuck is James McLean for fuck's sake? I mean, do me a favour. Who?
Yeah, couldn't lace his boots, right?
Yeah.
The Spanish press are can be bad as well, says Brownie. Nowadays, the players and coaches, yeah, they are all public relations trained compared to yesteryear, you know. But Declan Rice, I believe, when you get him in front of a camera, you know he's not gonna sell your club down the river. You know he's
But
not gonna
surely in
say
a
the wrong
tournament,
thing.
don't you want to be cheering your team on? As long as they're still in that competition, yes, you could be pissed off about the style of play, this player's being used and not this player, what's going on. But surely
Yeah.
you've still got to you be that 12th man. And like I've just said, I mean, we have finished the top of the group miraculously, right?
Mm-hmm,
We
mm-hmm.
should be, you know, and then if the team falls and they can't get over the next hurdle, fair enough. Now it's time to say, like, well, you know, enough is enough and it's time for change, whatever you want
Yeah.
to say.
Brownie said being PR trained is boring. But speaking for Arsenal, you don't want a soundbite to disrupt the efforts of the team. And in England's case, you wouldn't want a soundbite to reverberate back to the British press either. You know what I mean? And to your point, Stan, the social media and the press behind it. We didn't have social media back in the day. We'd go to the back pages and see what they.
CFAX, Oracle.
Yeah, that's how we got our
For those
news
of you
back
that don't know
then.
what that is, it's like a teletext thing. It was like really like, you know, at the time it was state of the art, but it was, you know what I mean?
So what we have is a nation, the English nation and the English press. They want the best for the national team to go and win a tournament, but at the same time, they're sort of hamstringing the team because of this criticism. They can't play
But the
freely.
manager isn't helping himself with the selections and stuff. It's
Yeah.
it's kind of like if you're gonna select this player to go to the tournament, why is it that you seem like that you don't really want to play them? Why didn't you take a player that you do want to play? And
Okay, so
I sometimes
give me
feel
an
with
example.
I sometimes feel with him like he's like, well, do you know what I mean? I would really love to have Jordan Henderson in the team right now. I know Jordan Henderson. I trust Jordan Henderson, but Geezer's been playing in fucking Saudi Arabia and he's bombing it with Ajax. And he got someone like a Kobe Mainu who's having a really good season. How can I
Yeah.
pick that one over the other? So then you pick the Kobe Mainu, but then you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to really.
You remember?
Same with
Remember Robson?
another one, and Adam Wharton. Then you're like, I don't know if I
Yeah.
want to pick these guys. I don't know if I really know them yet. You know what I mean? You get this feeling that he's shoehorning people in. He's like, well, I've got to get Jude Bellingham in the team, and I've got to get
So
Foden in the team, and I've got to get Declan Rice in the team. So
yeah.
why not do it appropriately? Why would you get Phil Foden, who got the Player of the Year or whatever it is, and then play him out of a position that he doesn't play in?
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
And
I
there's
heard
no
someone on the
gas
radio.
line.
Someone on the radio the other day. I can't remember who it was. It was someone that had been a manager. Maybe it was Tim Sherwood. It was Tim Sherwood again. Someone that I don't really take a lot of credence from at all. But he did say this one thing, and I thought, fair play. He said, if it was me, and the team, when the team will get together, I'd be going up to Phil Foden saying, right, son, where do you want to play? Where do you want to play?
You have a situation then where, Saka, Mikel Arteta started playing Saka on the right side. And that's Foden's favorite position, but maybe Southgate favors.
His position is 10. His position is where Bellingham's playing.
Okay.
So the argument is, right, you've got Declan Rice playing in front of the defense, and he had he shoehorned
Trent.
in Trent. I was going to say, what did I call him before? Terence Trent D'Arby on another podcast for some reason. But Trent Alexander, to shoehorn him in to say Carl Walker can play at right back. And then what people are saying is, well, why couldn't have Bellingham played next to Declan Rice and played in that position? Because he can go box to box, and then you can move Phil Foden into that central position where he's, been very successful. And then you have somebody that understands the left-hand side in an Anthony Gordon, because you did pick Anthony Gordon and you chose Anthony Gordon to come to the fucking tournament.
On the plane.
So why won't you use him and play him rather than have the team lopsided? It's like you can only have one right back. It's got to be Trent Alexander or Carl Walker. It's got to be one or the other. Don't try and shoehorn the other one in somewhere else.
I think you need to go with Terence Trent D'Arby.
Putting him into the midfield, which he doesn't do for his club. Did you know what I mean? That's like, well, what are you doing there? Doesn't make any sense.
Terence from now on.
And the other thing as well, if we're talking about the criticism side of it, it's like, are you trying to tell me that Luke Shaw is the only English left back that plays football on the face of this planet? There's no one else. There is no one else. If there is no one else, right, that plays in the Premier League that's available because of fitness, or there isn't one, or there isn't a top English left back that plays somewhere on the continent, then do you know what you have to do? You have to look to the league below.
Develop them.
Do you know what I'm getting at? Rather than fucking around playing on someone in there that don't know that, and do you know what I mean? You can't do that at a tournament.
And look, a left back position,
that left back, that right back, or that midfielder that's playing in there, they're going to get undone by top teams.
Yeah.
I'd rather have someone in there who's from a division below, who understands the position, and he can say to the teammates around him, help him out, stay near to him. The left-sided defender, keep an eye on him, stay near.
A left back, okay, he might get done by a winger, he might lose some here and there, he might lose some in the contest, but you still have a central defender that could cover up and help him out, like you're saying. Brownie said, lads, we're old enough to remember England at the 88 Euros, where Bobby Robson should have been sacked after not getting a single point in the group. And then 2 years later, Italian 90s happened, and we had Paul Gascoigne with a breakout tournament in Italian 90. I think he went all the way to the semifinals again. But that was cavalier football. That was more expensive, taking risks going forward. Lineker and Gascoigne. You don't see that. You don't see Bellingham doing that. You're not able to see Foden doing that. Also,
there's a lot of plaudits around Jude Bellingham. I mean, he's had a fantastic season at Real Madrid, and it's for someone of his age. And the reports that you hear is that he's almost like he acts like a captain at the club. The way he's in the dressing room and the way that he conducts himself and stuff like that. And he's had a long season, and he scored that first goal in the first game for England, but he hasn't really done a lot since. And he has come out himself and said that he's absolutely cream crackered. He's knackered.
Yeah.
So take him out.
All right. So where's the imbalance that you're seeing an imbalance? It's Luke Shaw playing left back everywhere.
Well, apparently Luke Shaw's fit enough now for the next game. Have you heard this? Okay. Apparently he's fit enough to play in the next game, which then makes me think that if he's fit enough for the next game, he must have been fit enough a couple of days ago to at least got 10 minutes in the last game. Ease him in. Because, there's a difference between being fit and match fit. And he's not played a game since, I don't know, the First World War. Seems so long ago, right? Since he's last played a game of football.
But you're right. You're right, Stan. You see these players playing for their clubs, But Saka's had the best season for Arsenal of all the players. Foden has his best season for Man City. Bellingham for Real Madrid. The list goes on and on and on.
Harry Kane. Look at the record he got. He broke records in the Bundesliga.
40 some goals, right?
Yeah. What happens when they come to England, and because of the way that the media and the fans and that, I think there's a fear. And as I mentioned, we started this conversation. If you're playing with fear, you're not going to take risks.
Hmm.
You're not going to try to make line splitting passes because you'd rather play it sideways or backwards because you don't
Yeah,
want to be the one. You don't want to be the one that fucks it all up and everybody's
yeah,
like, everybody wants to like murder, hang effigies up outside of pubs and set them alight. You don't want to be that one. So you don't, you're playing with fear. You don't take risks. You play it
yeah,
safe.
yeah. And Tony Saliba was always going to play. That was class the other week. That
Yeah.
was class the other week. Uh, yeah, look, every tournament stand for England, uh, if you don't win it, there's always been a villain or a group of villains at the end of the day. You know what I mean? The last Euros, we know it, with Bukayo Saka, Sancho, I forget the other player. You go back even to David Beckham against Argentina being sent off. Penalties missed by Scholes. I think I could write a book on it at this point in time. You know, um,
Mark Gay, though, he looks like he belongs for someone that's not really been around the England squad.
yeah,
He
yeah.
seems to have settled. He seems to have settled
That
into the
is one
England
of
squad.
those players I've been talking about for maybe 6 months now. Um, that I think Arsenal should target a Mark Gay along with Eberechi Eze. Go and raid Crystal Palace. Olise is already going to go to Bayern Munich. Mateta is not a bad player, but Gay's on the cusp of getting into that England side now, ahead of Slabhead, right? Um,
Yeah.
Eze similar in a similar position too.
Well, there's a buyout clause for Eze for 60 million. Apparently, I was just listening
Yep.
before I came on to something online, and they were saying that Eze's really liked around Arsenal. They really like him.
Yeah.
A lot of people
Yeah.
talk him up. He's got a buyout clause of 60 million. However, Crystal Palace want 50. That 50 of that paid straight up front. And we know
Yeah.
Arsenal like to do like sleight of hand, carry the one, take a fiver, give us back 10. Do you know what
I
I mean?
mean,
We
you
like to
got to
do all these
balance the books a little bit. You got to spread it out a little
a lot
bit.
of jiggery pokery with Arsenal deals, isn't there? Do you know what I mean? It's like
50
you get
bags
like
in one
you can
go,
imagine
Stan. That's a
Edu
lot.
when Edu does a transfer, he gets out 3 cups and there's a P under one, and he's right. Which one's the P under?
Hey, Stan, in the casino, Edu's not pushing all of those chips onto one
No,
number. He is
no.
not doing that. You know what I mean?
They did it once with Declan Rice. That's the only time they went all in. They went fuck it, pushed all the chips in.
Yeah, but they knew what they were getting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Eberechi Eze, 27 games last season, 11 goals, 4 assists.
And the
Uh,
position that they're saying that he could play in is either left wing, i.e. the Martinelli role, or
left
left
eight.
centre, the left 8. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know he could play there because there still
Yes.
seems to be nobody really seems to have nailed that place down yet.
Yeah.
Even though we done so well last season and almost won the whole thing, it seems weird that we managed to do all of that where we still have a position where we kind of still have a slight question mark, right?
Correct. And you know what? We want to have this discussion of
2
in the
question
future.
marks as well. Left back as well. We've got 2 question marks in the team there.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
hang on. Actually, there's 3 through the middle. Still a
I'll tell you
question
what,
mark there.
Stan.
Still a
I'll
question
tell
mark
you what.
there. We've still done all of
La-
that with 3 question
la-
marks.
Last season, we got a player in every section of the field, right? We got a goalkeeper in David Raya. We got a defender, albeit he didn't play very much for most of the season. We got a midfielder, and we got a forward,
Yeah.
And I think we're going to do something similar again next season, or this season, this window coming up. We know we need a goalkeeper, right? We've just been
Yeah, I know
talking
we're not
about
going to
it.
be able to hang on to Ramsdale. Why would you? I mean, Ramsdale's like, I can't. If you're Ramsdale, you're like, listen, I ain't going for another season like that, mate. The only
Yeah.
time I played was when
What?
the only time I played was when Raya couldn't play against Brentford. Other than
And
that ain't going to happen next season. So I mean, that's 2
Exactly.
games less that I ain't going to play in. So no, the
I was
guy's in
only
the
playing
England
2
team, right?
games.
He's breaking into the England team. He wants to play every week. So
Yeah.
he's gonna, you know, and who would we shouldn't really, you know, stop him.
No,
Do you know what I mean?
no.
Because we did kind of
Well,
like, you know what I mean?
gather a decent fee of about 30 million
We
because
did kind of like do him over a bit. Like one day he went home from work, and then the next morning when he came in, David Raya was sitting in the change room. He's like, "Brentford's up there, mate."
yeah.
He's like, "No, I'm
And then
here."
we had Arteta giving the most interesting soundbite of the season, where he talked about possibly thinking about pulling a goalkeeper and substituting them mid game. You know what I mean?
He
So
basically said, right, that was code for there were times he was basically saying when he said there were times last season when I really contemplated substituting the goalkeeper. That's code for, man, there were times last season where the goalkeeper was absolutely fucking pants.
Stunk it up.
And I wanted to give him the Spanish Archer, but there was no one else available. And I ain't making that mistake again.
Yeah.
That's damning.
Pretty much. That's it. So we don't know who this backup goalkeeper is going to be, but we'll find out later on this summer. We need a defender. We need a midfielder.
There has been a couple of rumors, isn't there? There's that Luvinev from Real Madrid, who I usually buy in career mode as my backup keeper. Funnily enough, should be coming full circle. There was talk about Chesney, but I think he's going somewhere else now, which I wouldn't have minded Chesney coming back as a deputy. And the other one is a Dutch keeper. Can't remember what his name is now. It's a Dutch keeper.
Velgren or something like that. It was something weird. It's funny. It's funny how other clubs talk about the same things we talk about. You know, so it's not just Arsenal that are looking at them. A few other players are looking at them. So we need a midfielder. We talk about Eberechi Eze, former Arsenal.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, go ahead. Former Arsenal player. He was. He did an interview. Eze did an interview recently where he said he was distraught at being cut from Arsenal at the age of 13, I think it was, in the academy. So I think Eze will have an opportunity maybe to come back to Arsenal and be one of our signings this season. You know, just excelling under Oliver Glasner at Crystal Palace, who had that upsurge at the end of last season. I don't know how Crystal Palace are gonna cope with the potential loss of Eze leaving, along with Olise, who I guess Vincent Kompany was admiring throughout the seasons because at Bayern Munich he brought him over to Germany, and then there is Mateta as well. So, you know, unless there's some talent coming through at Crystal Palace are going to struggle this coming season. So, you know, as 11 goals and 4 assists, it's 15 goal involvements across 27 games. So pretty much every other game he's got a goal involvement, which I think is good numbers. And I think it merits him taking that step up in class and going to a bigger club respectfully in London to Arsenal. If indeed that is the situation. Talk about him going to Tottenham. We hope is wide of the mark, and Arsenal are going to go in there. And you know, if you have an opportunity to go to Tottenham or Arsenal, Tomiyasu knows. Tomiyasu knows. He'll tell you. Brownie said Arsenal's sole focus should be on getting a proper striker. I want to be in a position where the next 3 to 5 years we are taking shots at the Champions League, and Havertz is a great talent. Arteta unlocked some of the codes with Kai Havertz, and we're going to see more of him through the Euros as they're hosting the European Championships. But we do need to have a high caliber striker as well if we're going to be powered enough up front to challenge the Real Madrids and the Man Cities. You've got to get a player who can be the focal point of your attack and score goals as well.
See, the thing is, these days, I mean, back in the day, like when you were talking about finding out about transfers on the back of a newspaper or on CFAX or Oracle, the only thing that we heard was how much we bought a player for. And good one for me is being on holiday in Ibiza. And me and the missus, we came down to go out to the beach for the day, and she said, I need to pop into the little shop that they have in the the lobby of the hotel to get like some sun cream or whatever. And while she was doing that, they had like one of those round things with newspapers on from England. So while she was doing that, I picked up a paper, and immediately, like you do, you turn to the back page. That's where the football stuff is, right? And it was the summer, and there it was, right? And there it was in my face, right? It was there right in my face. Dennis Bergkamp signs for Arsenal, £7.5 million. I had no idea. It's not like today. There was no Fabrizio Romano talking about, the gossip. That was it. I knew who Dennis Bergkamp was at that point. I knew who he was, but to see that on the, you should have seen my reaction in that shop. Should have seen my reaction in that shop because it was just like that's how it was.
Yeah. That was a high profile signing for £7.5 million.
But there was no kind of gossip about it. There was no medium to have that gossip.
No. And football has just exploded in the last 30 years.
So the point I was actually getting to is that if we go out to buy a striker, which is what everybody's talking about, what Arsenal needs, they're going to have, what are we going to get? Are we going to get like a high caliber? If we go out and get an Osimhen, which would be a great opportunity because they need to shift him, as I mentioned, and the asking price from his release clause comes down, he's still going to expect a high salary. Just because, if you're Osimhen, you're going to look at the current squad, you're going to think to yourself, well, Gabriel Jesus earns 200 bags a week. And they're obviously not thinking that he's the answer, because if he was the answer, they won't be talking to me. Yeah. And the other guy that they've been using, who's coming near the end of the season, who's done quite well for him, he earns 280 bags a week. And they're still talking to me. Therefore, I believe, do you see what I'm talking about? So it depends on what we're doing. Are we buying someone that's going to be coming in as like a main number 9 and kind of Havertz is now kind of second fiddle to that guy coming in for him off the bench, rotating with him? Or is Havertz going to be our main go-to guy in that position and we're going to buy someone for about maybe 40 million, 50 million, who's paid quite a lot less? Who's paid quite a lot less than Havertz, and therefore isn't going to be expected to be the nailed-on starter every time. Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yep.
There's two ways that we can go with this. There's two ways we can go past Havertz, paying a lot of money and being like like an Osimhen, who I would imagine that Osimhen's going to be around about 300 bags a week, right?
Yeah,
250, 300, somewhere around there.
So who was the backup to Thierry Henry? Was Canu, right?
Or Sylvain Waltord.
Or Sylvain Waltord. So
he did play on the right as well. He played on the right sometimes too.
The backup to Osimhen would be Kai Havertz. You know what I mean? So now you're raising the quality.
And Jesus, if Jesus is still in the squad, what's his role?
Yeah. Now you're raising the quality of the squad. We don't have any more. Forgive me for saying this. No more tea bags. No more Nelsons. There's no more tea bags in the can. We're out of tea bags.
Maybe we'll switch to a formation.
Eddie and Kedia.
Maybe we'll switch to a formation, which means that you could have, for example, an Osimhen, if he is going to be a purchase. I'm just going to use him. You could have an Osimhen and a Havertz in the same team. Or you could have an Osimhen and a Jesus in the same team.
Yeah.
Because a lot of teams now, if you're watching, and I've spoken about this a while, I spoke about this over a year ago. 2 strikers for teams I'm seeing it a lot more.
Yeah.
A lot more than just having that one and then the 2 on the side, the wing forwards. There's a lot of teams now going with 2.
Going narrow. Yeah. Listen, I want to welcome all 8 of you watching tonight. So I hope you're appreciating the chat, the conversation. Stephen said to Brownie, totally disagree. We need a 6 to replace Partey and a new number 1 goalkeeper. Ooh, a new number 1. Raya was responsible for
number
30
1
of the goals. Raya was responsible for 30 of the goals he conceded through his mistakes. If you feel like we didn't concede many goals, Stan. We didn't concede many goals. So 30% is like 5 mistakes.
But there's
in
nobody in the
same
league.
season.
Like there was nobody in the league last season that was better than him. Otherwise, surely they would have had the Golden Glove, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And do you know what won it
Stephen,
over? Seriously, what won it over for me with David Raya was saving 2 penalties, man. I was just like, give that guy the
look,
crown
I
now.
can
Crown
count.
him.
I can count a few mistakes. If you're going to
Oh,
say Mudryk,
he saved
if you're
two
going to say
penalties.
Mudryk, if you're going to say Mudryk chipping the ball over him, well, that was a kind of a fluke across for me, Mudryk. The one at
It was a nice bit of skill.
Lisbon,
You can't
the
take.
one
Why
at
should you?
Lisbon, no
I'm just
goalkeeper
saying
could
that
have saved that, right?
2 penalties though
Two
in the same
penalties,
shootout. I mean,
and there was one in the North
that's
London
worth
derby
you're worth
where,
your weight in gold if you can do that shit for me as a goalkeeper. If you
yeah,
can save penalties, that is like a big feather in the cap. Because every
I
time Peter
mean,
Cech had a penalty for Arsenal, I used to go and empty the cat litter because I never expected him or put the kettle on.
or put the scoreboard, give them the one already. You know what I
I
mean?
never
Before they even
expected him to
scored.
save a penalty, so I could
Yeah,
go do something else.
it was like when Ian Wright was going through in goal. The players behind him had their hands up in the air because they were celebrating because Ian Wright
Exactly.
would always
Nailed on.
score. Nailed on. Cheers, everyone. Currently on my way back from New York City. Hope be safe, BX Gunner. Hopefully you're enjoying listening to us as well for the ride. And Bergkamp was a flop at Inter before he arrived at Arsenal. There's a lot of examples of players who have underperformed and then gone to another club and
Here's a great
revitalized.
example. Here's a good example, and it's a good Arsenal example as well. Willian.
Hmm.
He
Yeah,
was good at Chelsea.
he left us to be
Came
better.
to Arsenal. Total flop at Arsenal. He had
Yeah.
a bookend. He had a good first game, and he had a good last game. Everything else in between those two games was toilet. To be fair, maybe there were some moments, but it wasn't a good tenure really.
Mhm.
Goes to Fulham, flourishes. Sometimes it's just about the environment for the individual, right?
Yeah.
And it's obvious that the environment at Fulham seems to suit him a lot better than it did at Arsenal for whatever
I'm
reason.
coming back to that one, Stephen. Bergkamp was a flop at Inter. He couldn't adjust to Italian football. It was very defensive football, tough defending. The same thing with Thierry Henry when he went to Juventus.
But he
came
was
to
brave as
Arsenal
well
and
because when
flourished.
Bergkamp initially left Holland to go to Italy, he could have gone to the other Milan and joined up. Where there was the Dutch contingent, weren't there? There was
Rijkaard
Van
and
Basten,
Yeah,
Hullet, and
Rijkaard.
Rijkaard, and he could have gone
Mhm.
there. And he said, "Well, I wanted to maybe be my own person." So he went to the other. He went to the other Milan, and it didn't work out. It just wasn't the right environment. The style of play didn't suit Dennis Bergkamp because
Yeah.
you can see what happened when he came to us.
All right. Let's address the Golden Glove. I mean, it is as much as anything about the defense in front of you, as well as the goalkeeper. It's a complete unit. So your missus would have won the Golden Glove behind this Arsenal team. Stan, I mean that's a fair point, right? Even you would have gotten the Golden Glove, Stan, behind Saliba and Gabriel.
the goal. Just talking about goalkeepers as well. For me, I always felt that. Who was the goalkeeper that we had? Sometimes with Leno and maybe Alex Manning. When you've got a team where you maybe don't have a good defense and there's a lot of shots coming on target. I think Leno was in this time
A few
area a lot.
seasons back. Yep.
Exactly. And he was playing out of his skin. But what happens is you are constantly switched on because the shots are coming in. You're alert. You're ready. You can see what's going on in front of you.
Yeah.
You know that your
Yeah.
defense is a bit creaky and you're alert. For me, the sign of a really good goalkeeper is a goalkeeper that has a really good back four in front of him. Your team is in control for maybe 85% of the time. And then the opposition get that one chance. It could be on the 75th minute and you've not had to do anything. But that one chance comes, you've got to be alert and be able to do your thing. That for me is a sign of a good goalkeeper because you shouldn't having to be making all of these saves every 2 seconds because that means that the rest of the team's not doing their job right. So if you've got a good team, a good defense, but then then there's a problem. The other team gets in and they have a shot. Your keeper's got to be ready to do his business.
And David Seaman was one of the best with concentration, as well, in that respect. And you're talking about goalkeepers having to be concentrated. and be ready for that one moment. Strikers have to be ready for the moment when they get the ball as well.
Yep.
Brownie said Dusan Vlahovic contract with Juventus runs out in 2026. Arsenal should try Juventus strength with a big offer this summer. Will Vlahovic be that player that a bit like who was the other players back in the day, continually linked to them?
Julian
But
Draxler.
that's the one, Draxler. Always linked to him, but nothing
Yeah.
doing ever each season. Norwich City beat Bergkamp's Inter Milan in Europe. I remember. Yeah, Norwich City. The year we won it, I think in '89, Norwich City were third, probably. In that one as well. All right, what else we got here? We got so here's the thing, Stan. Strike. We definitely do need that striker, right? We don't want to be scratching around, albeit sharing goals throughout the team. But you know, do we have enough up top in just Havertz and maybe Gabriel Jesus? Because Gabriel Jesus gave me no confidence toward the end of the season that he was ever going to score.
Well, he has a history, and we've done it before in this broadcast when we've looked at his history, and
Yeah.
he's never really, he's never cracked a 20, ever.
Never cracked a 15.
Yeah, I don't think he's cracked a 15 either. Maybe I'm not sure. Yeah, but it seems to have regressed as well.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be the numbers seem to be regressing. So I did also. That's why we're talking about strikers as well. Did you see this story doing the rounds that apparently we've made it public to everybody that Edward Nketiah is available. However, if you do want to get Edward, it's going to cost you 50 mil.
Yeah, Edward.
That's more than what we paid for Jesus, right? I mean,
yeah.
This is where we are now.
We're setting the bar high, though. Is that one where you don't want to sell your car? You don't want to sell your car, so you said it.
Yeah, the missus says you got to get rid of it. You're like, all right, so you put it in double the price.
Yeah, I whack another 50% onto the recommended. What is it? RRP, recommended retail price. You whack another 50% on it. I feel like Nketiah would be at 30 million. We'd be looking to get 30 million. We've gone and whacked 50 million on it, Stan. So, maybe we're playing the market early, setting our marker down and see what's going to happen. Because I think if we're going after Eze, we don't want to be spending 50 million up front.
But is 50 million going to scare people away from the table? Where if you said maybe 35 million, you'd have more people coming to the table.
We're bidding more,
to start open negotiations. I don't know.
Or maybe low, you get Ipswich.
Maybe we've got. Remember that the geezer that done the Iwobi deal for 45 million. Maybe we've got him back on the firm, and he's in charge. And if he is, I'm very confident we'll get that 50.
Yeah. So look, start the bidding around 20, like an auction. Do I hear 20? So Ipswich and Southampton and Nottingham Forest, and maybe West Ham. Yeah. Sorry, West Ham. Yes, you're in the second half of the table. All right. So we want to crack at the Champions League coming the next 3 to 5 seasons. The only way to do that is be consistently in the Champions League, and consistently having a crack at the semifinals. A little bit disappointing. I was thinking about this again. Disappointing that we didn't overcome Bayern Munich. Looking back at that quarterfinal, we just got nervous. We ran out of steam there for about 7 days. Stand, the Bayern home, the Aston Villa home, and the Bayern away. It was a bad week at the office.
Yeah, maybe that maybe we'd be better suited next season. Now those players have had that experience because it was a lot of those players. It was their first time, being in a situation like that.
Champions League nerves got to them. We're thinking about the first 2 goals we conceded. We put ourselves, we went a goal up, right? And then we conceded 2 goals. So we were 2-1 down. But those were nervy goals to give away where Bayern were they cut right through us, you know. And I thought we were nervous at the back. We didn't know how to deal with the occasion more than anything else because they have the skills, they got the
I felt
minerals.
that more about the Porto game as well. That the occasion
Yeah,
definitely got to the players.
yeah,
Definitely got to the players before the whistle even went. And as I said before, I mean, Declan Rice picked up a booking within the first couple of minutes.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, so that
So,
tells me that being a bit rash. You know, the occasion being a bit
so
rash.
do you think that was a good experience coming back into Europe in the Champions League to gain? And maybe it was a steep. It needs to be a steep learning curve because now the question is, we have the experience in the Premier League. We proved that last season with the run in, um, and we gained this experience in the Champions League at the highest level. You
Yeah,
know,
I felt our performance in the Champions League was very acceptable. You know, at one point you could basically say that Arsenal were in the top 8 teams of Europe.
yeah,
Not the
yeah.
top 10, the top 8. That's not bad.
That's happening.
It's not bad,
No,
is it? Really, it's
no,
not bad to be in that category of being in the top 8 teams in Europe. That's not bad at all. You
yeah.
know,
Well, you know,
right,
um,
Lawrence?
I know,
Nice, man.
Lawrence. How you doing, Lawrence? All right.
All right, how are you?
Yeah. Listen, we were talking about the quarterfinal of the Champions League that we exited against Bayern Munich, and I know where you stand on that one, but I'll give you a second to speak on it, Lawrence. Anyway,
Yeah,
as well.
it's an opportunity thrown away. You know,
Yeah.
got off to a great start, and then it all went tits up after that. David Raya decided to charge 30 yards out of his penalty area for no reason whatsoever, which led to I think it was the penalty,
Mm-hmm.
if I remember.
Well, no, the Gnabry goal was
The
part of
Gnabry
the
goal, yeah,
first
that's
one.
right. Yeah.
It wasn't David Raya for the penalty. It was more, I think, Saliba and Gabriel for the penalty. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, as I said, why Ryan decided to charge 30 yards outside his area when there was no danger, I've got no idea.
I'll tell you
And in
what.
the return,
Isn't it strange, though, Lawrence, that these professional footballers, it's all about making split second decisions. I'm thinking about Allison against us when we launched that ball at the Emirates in February, and Allison and Van Dijk couldn't deal with that high ball, and Martinelli had the open goal because of the mix-up. There's a lot of high-profile mistakes when it comes to. All you have to do is ask your defender and your goalkeeper to actually. If you get them into a situation where the goalkeeper thinks it should be a defender to deal with it, and the other way around, then you can cause havoc at the back as well. And these are professional footballers as well.
yeah, I mean, these are people who are earning six-figure salaries,
Mm-hmm.
and they make mistakes that you don't even see in a park on a Sunday morning.
Gosh.
Yeah.
How many times have we seen
Hackney Marshes.
a team, Hackney Marshes? Yeah.
We'll play
Exactly.
bingo. We got to play bingo in this podcast one of these days. Hackney Marshes would be one of the squares.
No, it's just laughable. I mean, as I say, I see things in the professional game that are just unbelievable. Where when I see a team try and play the ball out from the back and give it away when it's not necessary, and play the ball across their own area when it's not necessary either. I mean, I come from the old school. When I started playing football, the first thing the coach said is, whatever you do not play the ball across your own area because you're going to cause problems. And you see it in the modern game where players are playing the ball nonchalantly across their own area for no reason whatsoever.
But the game's moved on, Lawrence. This is professional. This is modern football now. This is the way. Risk versus reward. You take those risks so you can get an overload further up the pitch.
You know,
You know what I mean?
Lawrence is lucky, right? When I first started playing football, my school teacher said to me, "Can you please stop playing football? You're shit." So I found something else to do.
I love Fever Pitch where he's teaching the kids to stop for the offside trap. Put your arms up. He's actually coaching them to do that. Coach, put your arms up. Oh, it's great. What a joke. 50 million for a player who became an overpaid bench warmer by season's end. Looking to 20 million for I'm talking about Eddie and Kedia here. You know, the club have set a 50 million marker down, Lawrence, for Eddie. Now
if they get 15 million for him, good luck to them.
5-0.
I wouldn't pay Green Shield stamps for him.
Scott, thanks for joining us, Scott, tonight. Why are we giving players like Karl Hein a new contract? Ridiculous. You know, Okonkwo ran his contract down. I was a little bit irritated about that one, Lawrence. That we weren't. Okonkwo went to the Wrexham Revolution and ran his contract down and left for free. You know, and I was a player. I was a goalkeeper.
I just don't understand players. You know, some players. Why do you want to stay at a club where you've got no chance of making it into the first team? You know,
right, that's a good point. That's a good point. Now, Arsenal fans will criticize the club because academy players are leaving, right? Now, I would say they're leaving because they're looking at a Bukayo Saka, who's barely 21 years old or 22 years old himself, and they're saying to themselves, I've got no chance to play in this team, not because the coach won't play me, but because of Bukayo Saka. He's actually standing in my way. So a player like Cozy or Dewberry can't get into teams, Stan.
One of the things is it's like one of those players that's been rumoured about going to Bayern Munich. I think is that the OD Cheddy, whatever his name is, the young kid that scores a lot of goals. I think what it is you can't sign professional papers in the UK until you're a certain age, whereas in Germany, you can sign professional papers a bit younger. Therefore, you're being paid, you get paid more, and you have more of an opportunity. And I think that's what the lure is that these teams are coming in from abroad because they're able to offer them professional papers sooner. So then Arsenal have to somehow try and sweet talk them and say, look, I know that we can't do it yet, but, you know, trust us. Do you know what I'm getting at? That's what they're fighting against, especially when it's teams from abroad.
Okay. My feeling was you're looking at a path that is very difficult with Bukayo Saka, with Martinelli, with Havertz, with Odegaard. That these young players who would normally be coming into the first team.
Every game, can they? They can't play every game. You don't pick 11 players and that's it for every game. The cup games and everything. There's going to be opportunities. Players need to be taken out. There'll be injuries. There'll be suspensions. There'll just be, as Arsene Wenger used to say, players in the red.
Mm-hmm. The word on the street then would be one area will get some more exposure, some more game time this coming season.
Right.
And Lawrence,
I don't know if you watched the USA Panama game earlier today.
A little bit.
Balogun scored.
I saw
Balogun scored one hell of you know.
Good goal.
I mean, and he had to go to Marseille to get first team football.
Is that for the Copa America?
Copa America.
Yeah.
Okay. But you know what, Lawrence, his season at Monaco was not. He didn't tear up any trees either. You know.
Yeah.
And it always hurts a little bit when a former Arsenal player leaves and they go and score some goals somewhere else. It always hurts a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You think of what could have been, you know. But
Andy Cole.
Andy Cole, yeah.
That's for me. That's probably the biggest one, isn't it? you know, who was at Arsenal in the palm of your hand, and then you've let them go, and they've gone on to be like, you know, a goal machine, literally. Andy Cole was one of the best strikers for that era. He's up in the conversation, isn't he?
And went to one of your rivals, you know, your traditional rivals, and went and scored goals, and probably won. I'm sure he won a couple of league titles, right?
Yeah, I think he went to Derby first, didn't he? Went to Derby, then he went to Newcastle.
Yeah.
And he was with Newcastle in what would have been the first division then, or the Championship, the one below the main league. Bristol City on loan.
There, so I mean,
Bristol City on loan.
Yeah,
and then Derby bought him.
Why do we give players new contracts? Is to try to secure them for some kind of resale value, right? Is that what we do? With Karl Hein, we're giving them a new contract.
That's what they said we did with Eddie and Reece Nelson. It was to retain their value.
Mm-hmm. But now, difficult to move them on because we've retrained their value.
Because you want 50 million for them.
We're seeing it play out.
Yeah,
we want 50.
The player expects 100, you know, 100 grand or a pay rise, right? Usually, you want a pay rise at this age. You know, when you're in your 30s, and all that, maybe you take a decrease in your wage, right, to still play. But at his age, he'd be looking for a pay rise. But I mean, is he being overpaid as it is?
Do you know who? Maybe a little bit older, but do you know who's on 100 bags a week as well? Was Ollie Watkins at Aston Villa. But, you know, he's had a breakout season. He's justified that those wages.
If you're on 100 grand a week, right, and you've got 2 years left in your contract, and you're in a situation like Eddie where you know that you're nowhere near the first team, there has to be injuries or, you know, suspensions or, you know, emergency to even get a sniff.
Yeah.
You're on the bench. You're not even getting off the bench, right? And then another team comes in for you, and you know that you're getting a cold shoulder at Arsenal, and they come and say to you, listen, let's say Fulham are asking after you, Eddie. Do you want to go and talk to them? And Fulham say, listen, we're interested to get you in the January window, which is like a month away before it opens.
Yeah.
You'll play every week. We've got plans, Eddie, to play you every week. And you're like, fucking okay, yeah, all right. However, we can't pay you 100 grand a week. Oh, we can pay you 70. We can pay you 80, you know? You're thinking to yourself, well, why should I, you know, this is a job. You know, you work as a mechanic somewhere and another company comes in for you, but they want to pay you 20 grand a week less. Why would you go? It's a job at the end of the day, right? So then, you know, it depends on the personality. Maybe the personality is like, I've made enough money, I'm making enough money, I can still go and play. But there are other, Winston Bogard, remember the same situation? He was like, well, I'm under contract. I know that you don't want to use me. I know that you're not interested in me. I know other clubs are coming in for me, but they're not offering me the money that you're paying me.
Yeah.
And I think back then, I think it was like he was on 40 grand a week, which was big money back then. That was like big money. And he would like, he'd fly in from the Netherlands to go to do training, and then he'd fly back to the Netherlands, and he weren't going nowhere.
Scott said, yeah, it's disappointing that academy players are not getting a chance. Example, Omar Hutchinson gone for free, and Chelsea sell him after his Ipswich loan. So is it all just about the 10% sell-on? And Scott goes on to say, you would think you just want to play as players, you know? So
I'll give you another example. It's like when the WWF bought WCW, when that went bankrupt. So they were like, okay, we've got all these wrestlers now that we can take, but the wrestlers a lot of them were on these big contracts with Time Warner for another 2 years. And the WWF said, you can come and wrestle for us right now, but we'll only pay you 50 cents on the dollar of your current contract. So a lot of the wrestlers said, fuck that, we'll just sit home for 2 years. There was a couple that were like, well, I really want to wrestle. I'm just breaking out. I took the deal. But a lot of them were just like, it's a job, right? I can stay at home with my family. I'm still getting paid. You know, the deal will probably still be there when I've finished in 2 years' time. They'll probably still want me. So you get it, right? It's a job. It's not like us fans who say, oh, yeah, give me the shirt. I'll play for free. I'd put the shirt on for free. Well, for that,
like, what was his name? Jenkinson, right? Jenkinson was a fan as well.
A lot of these people, it is a job, right?
Play for us. I see Lawrence smiling. Jenkinson.
I've still got that picture of him in his bedroom with his Arsenal duvet.
All his merch, yeah. Jenkinson. Living his best life, Carl Jenkinson. Probably still playing, right?
Somewhere, I'm sure he is. Yeah, he's still playing somewhere.
Yeah.
So I'll have to check that out later.
He
Maybe
can't
somebody
be much over 30, can he? Surely,
no. Maybe somebody in chat box can tell us where is Carl Jenkinson?
Where is the corporal?
So Stan, do you think there's an opportunity for a couple of our best academy players in the positions we need to break through into the first team? We know we need to make like 7 or 8 changes, but they're not all going to come in.
If you're one of those players in that younger group, I mean, who's that one that's been sat on the bench for most of the season? I mean, is it Walters was on the bench for a while?
Walters was there. One area was
the
another
bench.
one.
Yeah.
Some minutes.
If you're some of these players that are training with the first team, you're flirting, you're on the bench, you're traveling, but you're not getting any minutes. Surely you know that you're going to get minutes in pre-season. You know that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you've got players that are on holiday. Players like Saka, for example, depending on when England come out, and Declan Rice, they ain't going to jump on a plane and join the team. They need to recharge. They need to have a holiday. So that'll be during pre-season. So there's players that are going to get opportunities, and surely that's where you think, okay, I'm going to lay a card down here. I'm putting a marker down. I want to get into the manager's mind. And I'm sure that Eddie Nketiah done that. I remember one pre-season where Eddie Nketiah was like scoring prolifically. Obviously, it didn't translate into the season, but it got him on the bench. He was in pre-season and he was playing a part. And you were like, oh, okay, this looks threatening. The guy that he could probably come off the bench and do stuff. It didn't happen, but that's what you do, right? In pre-season.
Yeah, and a little over a month from now, Lawrence is going to be watching Arsenal play at SoFi Stadium, I think it is, right?
Yeah, I've got tickets for a couple of other events that are taking place out here. There's Ian Wright's going to be doing a podcast out in Hollywood, and there's one going to be done by Arse Vision and Arsecast. Arseblog, sorry. Yeah. So I'm going to those events as well.
Checks in the post from Andrew and the other guy. I forget his name. I forget his name.
Clive.
Andrew. Huh?
Clive
is one of them. Yeah. Send the checks over. Andrew, Clive, and the host of Arsenal Vision.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I know I missed the beginning of the show and I apologise, but
that's fine.
I don't know if we brought this up yet, but I want to say something about Kevin Campbell.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just devastated completely. I never met Kevin Campbell, but judging by what I saw from him, he loved the club, and he had time for the fans as well. I mean, I know Lee Judges as well, and him and Lee Judges were mates, very good mates indeed. And I remember watching Kevin Campbell play for the youth team in the FA Youth Cup final. And me and my mates, if there wasn't a big game, we would go and watch the reserves or the youth team play. And we saw Kevin Campbell play against Doncaster in the FA Youth Cup final. And we were totally blown away, because he had so much speed for a guy of his size. He was a big guy, but he had pace, which is what we needed at the time.
Yeah,
and he was a member of that Arsenal team in '91 that only lost one game all season.
That
won us the league. I
Right,
really am gutted. We're never going to make rest.
thing that's hard about Lawrence is that you think he's no age at all, right? He just got past 50. He just got probably about my age, a little bit older than me, actually. You know what I mean? And gone. And Stan and I were talking about these players, 7.5 million for Bergkamp. They always seemed like you would never be able to talk to them, never able to reach them. Maybe one of the good things about social media is being more accessible to some of the players, and some of them, it's within their own remit to decide how public they want to be, how accessible they want to be. But Kevin Campbell, I'll tell you what, he was just like a fan. He was a fan of Arsenal, a fan of the people, and he put himself out there. And by all accounts, everything I hear about him, nobody ever said a bad word about him. Even rival fans, all of the clubs that he's played for, appreciated all of the effort he put in for them. He always put a shift in. He never shirked his responsibility. Saved Everton and Nottingham Forest from flirting with relegation. Did what he did with Arsenal. We know all about that. But always happy and smiling and willing to make other people feel good about themselves. And it wasn't about him.
Yeah,
about how
he wasn't a prima donna. He wasn't one of these players who just didn't want to know the fans. He went out of his way to talk to the fans. I mean, I've seen many pictures online of him in the pub at the Tonnington, having a pint with the fans.
Yeah,
and you don't get that these days with today's players.
No, and Stan might want to jump in as well. But like the stories that are told of, I think there was a story told where somebody was with Kevin at Everton and they were going to go into the pub, and he was like, "They killed me in there," because I'm an Arsenal fan wearing an Arsenal shirt. And Kevin was like, "No, you'll be all right with me. Just stick close to me. You'll be all right." You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing where, he just was able to find the common ground between rival fans and enjoyed banter as well, Stan, and all that stuff. You know what I mean?
I've been fortunate enough through doing the podcast thing to talk to. I've never spoken to two Arsenal players, or former Arsenal players, I should say, ever. And one was Alan Smith, and the other one was Kevin Campbell. Only once. And I think he nailed it on the head. If I was to think of one word to sum up Kevin Campbell, I would say that word would be accessible. He just comes across as a very accessible person.
Mm-hmm.
That he's not up in the director's box. He's, even I think that Ian Wright is a really good ambassador for Arsenal. He's like Uncle Ian. But I don't think he's accessible as Kevin. Kevin was, in the trenches. He participated on people's podcasts. He was on the Hybrid Squad a lot. And you could see that he was enthusiastic about doing it. That's how he wanted to spend his time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that if there was one word to sum him up, if you could just sum him up in one word, it would be accessible. He just comes across as and authentic as well.
Authentic. Yeah.
And like you say as well, he's revered at other clubs that he's played for, which goes to tell you about the personality that he is.
Yeah. Like, the way...
Love him at Everton, don't they? Love him.
Love them at Everton. The way some fans will be like, "Oh, that guy was just there collecting the money every week. He didn't care about the club." I got the feeling,
and you still see him on like Sky. You'd go on YouTube and there'd be something happening on. I'm in Canada and I see stuff on Sky and on YouTube and it's about Sky, and Kevin's there talking and that about stuff, and then you scroll up and he's on somebody's podcast, like he's on the Hybrid Squad or he's on the Gooner Talk with Mike.
Yeah. I
like that about him, and he was honest in his opinions and stuff like that. So, as a fan, it's a good insight, right? When you get to be able to sit down and listen to an ex-player telling you making comparisons and stuff like that. So yeah,
Exactly. He could see he was in a unique aspect of where he had many pints with fans. He would have conversations with us fans, but also he knew what it was like to be wearing the boots every Saturday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, going out, fighting for those people in the stands to get 3 points for your team, and he just had a way of making people smile. You know what I mean? And bigger. I was enjoyed his. It'd be late at night. I always enjoyed his. He'd get up super early. He'd get up really early in the morning, and he'd put his you know, Dicky Bow Thursdays was one thing Tiger and Gunnar said, but he'd always wish everybody to have a great day. You know what I mean? And it was sometimes I got into like a phase of where I was replying to him.
genuine as well, right?
Yeah,
That it was
I
just
was
natural
replying
for
to
him
him.
do
Yeah,
that. He hadn't been trained to do that or schooled to do that, or it wasn't some PR person somewhere running his account,
yeah,
like Ozil or something like that.
yeah,
It was generally he just wanted to wish everybody a good day
yeah.
because that's how
And
he wanted a good day himself. He was a happy person, right?
for
Positive.
people at ease, indeed. As a footballer, he had to partner with different styles of players. Alan Smith, Ian Wright, a couple of other players, maybe Merce. But he had to tailor his game to. I almost felt like he would tailor his game to make those players better. Do you know what I mean? Ian Wright would probably say really, obviously, nice things about it, the way he would assist for him scoring goals. But yeah, I look, I like to do a podcast here, and I like to stay in my own lane. You know that, Stan. We do our thing here. But I often thought about, and this is a lesson for everybody, I suppose. I often thought about reaching out and having that one podcast with an ex-footballer, and Kevin Campbell would have been the person that I would have wished to have had that podcast with. And the one regret is time stands still for nobody, and 54 years old, and you think you've got all those years ahead of you, and just a horrible, sad thing.
Younger than myself.
Yeah, yeah, and you just don't know in life anymore, So we have to cherish the time that we have together. And I often thought I had plenty of time to reach out to Kevin Campbell and get him on and have a podcast, but alas, that time is gone for Kevin. And all that's left is to wish him and his family and friends condolences, and just say our piece about what we felt as who that person was, looking from afar. I never met him. Like you said, Stan, you had an interaction with him on a podcast.
Once.
Yeah, and I'm sure he addressed you as Stan, and you felt like you were talking to.
Very easy to talk to. Yeah.
No airs and graces, not difficult at all. Maybe if you were feeling a little nervous, I hear stories that he would put you at ease very very quickly, as Tiger and Gunnar said, at ease. Tiger and Gunnar says he liked my name, Tiger and Gunnar. So there you go. We all cherish the little things that we got from Kevin Campbell, who was larger than life. I think that's another thing you could say about him, is larger than life. So, Lawrence, unless you've got anything else to say, I mean, we could go on longer about who Kevin Campbell and who he was, but I think we've probably said enough at this point without reiterating.
Yeah. I mean, it's a sad loss, but life goes on, as they say.
There you go. Yeah, life does go on. Unfortunately, but we and people, the Arsenal community will remember Kevin, and the fans will remember Kevin because of the interactions he had with us. Not speaking for myself, but speaking for many, many others who I've not heard a bad thing said about Kevin Campbell. Have any of you ever watched David Seaman podcast? Such a shame he hardly gets any views. So, yeah.
I've seen it a couple of times and I keep forgetting about it. And the times that I have seen it, I found it interesting. So thank you for reminding me, Scott. I need to perhaps set a bell or something like that.
Yeah.
But I have a very funny David Seaman story. It's like when I used to go to Arsenal at Highbury, I always used to sit in the same place. It was in the North Bank, but it was in the lower, and it was probably somewhere around about 8 rows back from the goal, really close to the goal. And I just remember one time, I think it was like, I forgot that David Seaman was a Northerner. You know, he's not a Londoner. He's from up north. And I was at I was at a game, and I can't even remember who it was against, but the ball, someone took a shot, and it just went whizzing by the post and almost went in. And we were all like, oh. And David Seaman just turned around and went, oh, that were close, wasn't it?
That were close.
I'll never forget that. That were close, wasn't it? And it's like proper deep, like Northern accent. And then
I remember
smile on his face. He wasn't phased. He wasn't phased at all. I remember it just wasn't. That were close, wasn't it?
And that's the thing about David Seaman as well. He's always got a smile on his face. He's maybe a little bit more understated than Kevin was, but you know, still he's got a sense of humor about him, and a very friendly but gentle demeanor. You know what I mean?
But he does that as for a goalkeeper. He has those two moments, doesn't he, that he has to live with. He has the Ronaldinho moment when he was the England keeper, but then he also has the Naeem moment, the Naeem one as well.
Oh, we got Lord Seaman.
Ray
halfway.
Ray must have had a He must have had a sense of humour when he had that ponytail.
Hey, that was a very, very.
He hung on to that for ages, wasn't it? When ponytails were well and gone, he was like, no.
That was a very thick. That's a very thick mane that he had. You know what I mean? Yeah. Don't bring the lob goal up again. Yeah, and it was lobbed from the halfway line, but I won't say the full caption there. We all remember the save as well. David Seaman's save in the semi-final against Sheffield United, right? Probably his most famous save. And he wasn't bad at saving some penalties either, Stan, down through the years, you know?
I think he was a really good penalty save. Really good
penalty shootout against Sampdoria, right? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I would actually say that looking back at Arsenal goalkeepers in the time that I've been supporting Arsenal, you know, there's probably maybe ones before that I don't know, but for me, you know, if I had to name our greatest goalkeepers in the time that I've been supporting Arsenal, I would probably say it's David Seaman and Pat Jennings.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know too much about Bob Wilson. That was probably a bit before my time, right? So I can't comment on Bob Wilson.
Yeah.
I'd put Bob Wilson up there as well.
I know the stories, but I don't know my time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Pat Jennings,
I think it was Pat Jennings. Yeah. But also Jimmy Rimmer. I mean, I thought Jimmy Rimmer was a decent keeper when he played for us.
Yeah, and look, the same way we never saw Bob Wilson, right? Stan and I never saw Bob Wilson. So now I can understand a little bit where kids these days don't think about Thierry Henry or Dennis Bergkamp.
Because it wasn't their time.
It wasn't their time, and they never saw it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
They're talking about Mesut Ozil.
Yeah, they're talking about Mesut Ozil.
Another popular one. For me, for our generation, us guys here, when we look back, we all talk about Bergkamp and Overmars, a Perez, a Vieira, and Henry. Yeah. But I'm seeing now that the other generation, for them, it's, for example, here's the biggest one, Alexis Sanchez. He's their kind of guy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm getting at? Even though we were watching it at that time, but for us, you know, he wasn't our golden age, was he? For some of them, he's like their golden age. They They never saw Perez. They don't know about Lundberg.
Yeah.
They don't know about Loren, Canu.
Mm-hmm.
He could even go further back. They don't know about Anders Limpar.
Wiltord.
Wiltord, we spoke about him earlier.
Anders Limpar, what a player Anders Limpar was.
Yeah.
Wiltord, if we could get a Wiltord now,
Limpar.
if we could get a player like Wiltord now, who can play in two positions, on the right and up front, and can be effective. And you got to think about it. If we never had Thierry Henry, Wiltord would have been a starter. No doubt about it. He could have played up front with Bergkamp. But we were, we had good play. That's where we should be now. This is where we should be looking at the quality of the people on our bench. We need someone like a Walter.
We have Eddie. We have Eddie and Jesus.
That's not. That's not.
Canu and Wiltord.
You got to take Lawrence off now.
My God.
That's not the same
thing.
Yeah,
Lawrence. When we didn't have Henry and Bergkamp, we had Canu and we had Wiltord. Wiltord winning the league up at Old Trafford. But he also scored 14 and 15 goals. Canu
even Christopher Ray.
Christopher Ray. Exactly.
Louis Boa-Morte.
Louis Boa-Morte.
You're talking. I'll tell you what, though. These were players who were motivated to go and do something when they got their chance. They were motivated, not by money, but by trying to win a trophy and trying to win.
Christopher Ray is a good example. Remember that his shining moment, wasn't it?
1998, right? Wasn't it? That goal.
Yeah.
Against Middlesbrough, was it, or Fulham? I'm not sure.
Wolves.
Stephen said the Arsenal misfit. Sanchez would have loved playing in today's Arsenal with its hard press. He was always trying to get the team to press harder, and players like Bellerin didn't want to have a bar of it. Didn't want to know at all.
Bellerin didn't like Sanchez because he had a winning mentality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tom, if only Tony was here right now, he'd tell you as well. Jimmy Rimmer was a great goalkeeper. Yeah. Another one, Ray Parlour. These are the unsung heroes that maybe not the best players in your squad, maybe not the ones who are going to win matches for you, but week in, week out, they're going to give you that consistent performance each and every weekend. Each and every Wednesday night. Mm-hmm.
I remember a player. Well, this will be way before your time, Ray, but he was part of the Arsenal squad that made it to 4 cup finals during Terry Neal's time at the club.
70s and 80 into 80?
Yeah, 70s. David Price.
Okay.
He was such an unsung hero. He always got stuck in, and he did more than his fair shift for the team, and he never got the credit that he deserved. David Price.
Okay. Ray Parlour was a workhorse indeed. These are the players. Lauren is what Stan mentioned as well. The players who are not like the creme de la creme of the team, but they're that second tier and third tier that you need in your squad when Thierry Henry is not quite at it. You can bring Canu in, and you'll get goals out of him. You got a little bit something different, and these are the players that we need to go and get this summer as well to make a difference. Maybe an Eze.
My favorite Canu moment. I went back to London in 2000. It's the last time I went back to London.
Mm.
And we played Deportivo La Coruña in the UEFA Cup.
Yeah.
And he ran half the length of the pitch with the ball, and he made a mug out of the Deportivo keeper. He sold him a dummy and took the ball around. I was right behind that.
I've seen that one. The ball's played through to him. Chelsea as well. We were 2-0 down at the time.
And I remember listening to that. I was working for some company where we had to drive out into the middle of the country somewhere, like fucking up. I don't know where it was, like last of the summer wine, to do something. But on the way home, I knew the game was on, so I said in the van, like, can we turn like the radio? And I was listening to it on the radio, and that's right, we were losing 2-0. And they were all like, ah, there's 2 other people in the van, like, ah. And then Canu done his thing. And then I remember saying, I remember making them stop at an off license, and I was drinking Tennant Super in the van.
In the glow of the win, yeah. Have that, 2-0 down, 3-2 win. Yeah, an amazing hat trick as well. You know what I mean?
Didn't have a hole in his heart. Like a hole in his heart or something. The problem is a heart murmur or something like that.
And I think one of his kids is now a footballer with Watford, if I'm not mistaken, as well. Professional footballer himself.
Is Hal Robson Canu related to him?
I don't think so.
I'm not sure. I remember having to listen to the Euro Cup on the radio. I remember having to listen to the Arsenal games on the radio.
There was that one night when Nwankwo Kanu had that one night in Merthyr Tydfil. Pulled some bird from a nightclub, do you know what I mean? And then you had Hal Robson Canu. It's like Game of Thrones, isn't it? We have the bastard son.
Yeah. All right, we're going to get into our fixture list a little bit as well. Talk a little bit about it, at least. We want to get into anything else, Stan, before we go there. I mean,
yeah, I just came back and I just saw Scott Kirk say Ray was a workhorse, and I'm thinking, he's not talking about you, what you did while I was away. He must be talking about Ray Parlour.
Ray Parlour, yeah, exactly. Because I mentioned Ray Parlour's. Try to mention a couple of unsung heroes, Stan. You know what I mean?
Do you know what I think about Ray Parlour? Arsene Wenger, when he came in, when a manager comes in, and they want to stamp their authority, they want their players or whatever. The 2 things that I think that, or the 3 things that I think that Arsene Wenger did, which was very canny, was keeping the back 4 together and the goalkeeper, back 5 if you want. Realizing that he had something there that was already working and he didn't need to no, I'm going to bring someone else in and blah, blah, blah. The other one was keeping Ray Parlour.
Yeah.
And recognizing what Ray Parlour actually brought to the team. It could have been very easy for him to have got rid of Ray Parlour, I think.
What you think about
the other one, and the other one, the third one as well, is keeping Paul Merson.
Right. Because when you think about it, you got that English backbone. You got the 5 at the back. Ray Parlour, and then you just throw in a Patrick Vieira, a powerhouse from AC Milan, a silky footballer in Emmanuel Petit, and that partnership between the 2 of them, and then Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp.
Remy Gard as well came in as well at that time. Do you remember Remy Gard?
He was part of the package. He drove Vieira.
Who was the other one? Gilles Grimandi.
Gilles Grimandi, yeah.
And I think it was. I was listening to. I think it was on the overlap. We were talking about that, and I think Ian Wright. No, yeah, and I think. Did you see the one with Patrick Vieira on there?
Yes.
Have you seen that one? Yeah.
Yes.
They were talking and that, and I think it was either on that one or maybe another one. But Ian Wright was kind of alluding to that he feels that, Patrick coming in and being young, he felt that Grimandi and Remy Gard were also brought in because they could add to the team, but also to help Patrick settle.
The experience.
Obviously.
Yeah, and
being experienced and being, from the same nation, right?
Yeah.
Because at that time, it was very different, wasn't it, to have, foreign players.
Yeah.
There'd been 1 or 2, but it was still quite new, wasn't it?
Yeah. In the late 90s, right? 96. And I think coming out of overlap discussion with Patrick Vieira, Ian Wright mentioned that Vieira was starting to get a little bit annoyed that he wasn't playing. And I think we were down against Sheffield Wednesday when he came on and turned the game around. You know what I mean? Patrick Vieira.
Yeah.
And then, like Ian Wright said, he was off to the races then, didn't look back. Patrick Vieira. with that as well. So, but the other interesting aspect is, I don't know if you saw it, Lawrence, the overlap. You have to check it out if you haven't seen it yet with Patrick Vieira.
Have you seen it, Lawrence? It's it's a football show, and it's
I
usually
saw it once. I saw it once
Ian
when they
Wright's
had the
always on it.
different. Yeah.
Now you got Roy Keane and Ian Wright, and I think Roy Keane is being balanced by Ian Wright. I've seen Roy Keane.
Ian Wright loves Roy Keane. Can you see the fondness between those two? They really get on because they do the commentary together, and they do a lot of stuff together. They get on so well.
Yeah.
Have you seen the video that's online today of Roy Keane wearing an Arsenal shirt?
Yes, it's a righty. It's a JVC. It's a righty JVC. I think 1990, 92, 93 maybe.
Yeah.
And there's another one where they're in this shopping center.
I've seen that one.
He's gone hiding in the store.
A couple of young kids come over. They want to, a couple of tourists come over, want to get a selfie with Ian Wright and Roy Keane walking obviously in like a shopping center somewhere in Germany. Some fans have come over, and then Ian Wright's there getting in position, and you see Roy Keane is hid behind a wall by a door, and Wright is going, "Come on, Roy," and Roy's like, "Fuck that, I'm not doing this shit." Ian's a man of the people. Roy Keane, he's not into hugging and all that shit.
Yeah, there's one with Rory McIlroy where he's like, You dissed me as a kid, you know what I mean? 12-year-old kid. This Rory McIlroy, Man United supporter, Irish as well, and he wants to go see Roy Keane, and Roy Keane's like, "Get lost, kid. I don't have time for you." You know what I mean? That's Keane, though.
If you haven't seen that overlap, it's on their YouTube. But they have one episode where they've got Patrick Vieira in, and obviously they talk a lot about the rivalry between Man United because it's Gary Neville, who's kind of like the main host, Roy Keane, Ian Wright, and then they have Jill Scott with the Sunderland accent that annoys the hell out of me. Ian Wright told a really funny story because on one of them they were talking about international, what it's like being playing at international level. And what Ian Wright's like, he's a very emotional guy, and you can see it. If he scores a penalty, he's going to burst into tears. If he misses a penalty, he's going to burst into tears, right? But he said that it was one of his first call-ups for England, and he goes, and I've walked into the dressing room, and goes, and what they do is, right, they have like your kit all folded up with your number, and it's all hanging up, and it's there, and he goes, and I went over, and he goes, and I picked up my kit, and I saw it for the first time, and my boots were there, and he goes, and I could feel myself welling up, and I was just about to start crying. And he goes, and Gaz walked in and goes, "Look at Wright, you're about to cry." And he goes, I suddenly stopped crying. Look at Wright, you're about to start crying.
That Geordie accent, exactly.
Be right out of the moment. Do you know what I mean?
Hey, Tony, how you doing?
Vieira's worth a watch.
All right.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Tony.
That's a hell of a watch, Stan.
Some good episodes.
Scott said, Gilles was like an El Neni, nothing flash, but did his job. That was Gilles Grimandi. And one of the last things from that overlap video is that Patrick Vieira saying his one regret would be to know the owners and get to know the owners. I thought that was interesting. Get to know the owners just as well as you would get to know your players. So rather than just concentrating on your players and coaching them and managing them, you actually have to manage the upper tier, the upper crust, and keep them happy as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was the situation we had with Crystal Palace.
I really do enjoy the relationship between Patrick Vieira and Roy Keane as well. And again, if you haven't seen it, it was a few years ago where they done a special documentary thing, about an hour, where it was just Roy Keane and Vieira head to head, talking about their rivalry and what it was like playing against each other, which is a really good one to watch. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, I like that.
Head to head with Keane and Vieira. But again, this one on the overlap, they went into a lot of that. And you can see that there was a lot of mutual respect, And Patrick Vieira said that, the person that was the one that he went up against the most, that he kind of like enjoyed, it was Roy Keane. And Roy Keane even said that he knew that when he was going to go out to play against Arsenal, he had to have his best game.
And to be fair,
he had to have his best game.
Is that the one where they had the bust up in the tunnel before they came out the gate?
Pizzagate, the whole lot was everything. Yeah. That one.
Obviously, you've got Roy Keane there,
and
you've
Gary.
got Patrick Vieira, and you got Gary Neville, and they spoke about it. You know that Gary Neville said he was out in the tunnel, and he goes, and Patrick Vieira was there. This is before it was like the players going out. He was walking in the corridor, and he goes, and Patrick Vieira just ran up to him and said to him, because they felt that they'd been. Who was the player that they'd been kicking a lot?
Yeah.
Who was the one player that they felt that
Reyes.
they'd been overly kicking?
Reyes.
Yeah.
Jose Antonio. Yeah.
They felt that they'd been really, you're not going to do that. You're not going to kick us again like you did, tonight. And so Gary Neville's gone running into the change room and was like, "What's just had a go at me?"
Started crying to Roy.
Yeah.
Started crying to Roy, indeed. Yeah, definitely that was a good documentary.
But it's funny that I felt that the way that Roy said that he's not usually bothered about any of that sort of stuff at all.
Yeah.
He'd be like, usually whatever. But he actually felt that Vieira saying it to Gary Neville was what pissed him off. It's like
mismatch.
You're gonna have a go at someone, and it's Gary Neville that you chose.
Little Gary.
You know what I mean? You have a go at Gary. You know what I mean? Why wasn't it?
But
someone, you know what I mean? Gary Neville.
But Stan, Gary was
he kept kind of saying that he was pissed off that it was Gary Neville that you kind of.
Don't you have a mate? Don't you have a mate that mouths off, and then all of his friends are the one who's backing him up? You know what I mean? Gary Neville's that guy who mouths off a lot, and then he knows that Roy Keane and maybe Gary Pallister or whoever else was there would have his back. You know what I mean?
But if you notice, when you watch these videos, you do hear these Man United players saying how, we were playing the best football.
Yeah.
Even though if you look at the league split between the two teams, they won more. What was it? We had 3, they got 4?
3 or 4, something like that.
Yeah.
Over
they still say that we
years.
played the best football, and that they sometimes adapted their game to play against Arsenal.
Well,
and they also say as well that we were the one team that Alex Ferguson. I've seen other documentaries. They've said like a week leading up to an Arsenal game, Alex Ferguson would be talking about Arsenal, and he didn't do that about other games. A week out, he starts talking to us about Arsenal. Didn't do that about any other games that we were playing, but Arsenal he really had a hot spot.
And he emphasized the physicality about it as well, which, but I like the part where Patrick Vieira was like, well, you had all the referees. You had the referees on your side.
Yeah.
Which may have been a little bit true. I'm just saying we can see that now, nowadays. But yeah, a very, very interesting documentary with Patrick Vieira. I'm liking the Roy Keane. Maybe Carragher's a little bit out of the picture now with Ian Wright being there.
There's a very good Roy Keane episode actually, where they focus on Roy Keane and they talk about his career. They talk about his managerial career. They talk about what happened with Ireland. They talk in great detail how he left Man United and why. It's quite, and Roy Keane is quite happy to, Tony, I'll tell you what he's like. Roy Keane, right, when he talks about his football career, he reminds me of Bret Hart. Do you know what I mean? He's like slagging everybody else.
He goes through those red cards, right? There's one with Southgate. There's a red card with Gareth Southgate.
I've not seen the one about that one. I've not seen the red card one. There's one about. I've not seen that one. Yeah, there's one about.
You gotta see it. He stamps on him. He stands on him. He's like, and Keane's attitude is like, to be fair, he deserved it. You know what I mean?
What did he say about the Alfred Inga Haaland one? Because obviously that must be a big one. What did he say about that?
He blamed Gary Neville because Gary Neville was gone to the linesman. He said something like that. It was your fault, Gary. You went to the lineup.
Gary again.
I mean,
Gary Neville again.
Roy Keane is literally wrote a book about what he was going to do to Alfie Inge Haaland. Erling Haaland's dad, may I say. You know what I mean? And he was going to do him because of what happened the previous season.
And this was against Man City, wasn't it?
He was playing for Leeds. Well, yeah, he was with He was with Leeds, I think, before, and that the last season.
When he done him, he was at Man City, wasn't
he? Yep.
Yeah.
He must have waited. He waited a long time for the perfect opportunity.
It's mad as well because when I think of Man City, I always think of David Bust. Remember that? David Bust, the ankle. Fucking hell, that was horrible, man.
Horrible.
That was Man City and all, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Peter Schmeichel was the goalkeeper. You see Peter Schmeichel running out of his goal with his fucking.
That was Coventry.
Oh, Coventry. Yes, the same. I knew it was a blue kit. I knew it was a light blue kit. Coventry. David Bust. Yeah. And Peter Schmeichel was in goal, wasn't he? Was he playing? Who were they playing against?
United.
Yeah.
Had to be United. Was that Old Trafford?
That fucking horrible.
That was bad.
I really showed that. Oh, horrible ankle break. Yeah. Sorry. David Bust.
Sometimes I think about that sometimes, you know what I mean? We've seen...
What? When you're in bed at night, you think of David Bust and his ankle?
Not every night.
Oh, okay.
Once a year. I rotate
through. This is like, Ray, what's the matter? You can't get to sleep like that. David Bust. His ankle.
No. David Bust.
Ray does that 3 out of 7 days out of a week.
Yeah. Wake up in the middle of the night
and then
oh, sorry.
And then naturally it goes from that to all of our Arsenal players through the years because the pundits used to say Arsenal are weak. You got to beat Arsenal by getting
soft underbelly. Soft underbelly, apparently. Soft underbelly. We were like a kitten that rolls over and you can tickle its belly. That was Arsenal, apparently.
And then you can smash our ankles as well. You know what I mean? The one thing that Patrick Vieira did say, the best player that he ever saw was Abu Dhabi. Remember that part?
No, I didn't see that.
As part of that show, the overlap, he said the best player he ever saw was Abu Dhabi, but he had all those injuries. You know what I mean? He had the potential to be better than Vieira, and probably unlucky that he came after Vieira because he was
weird,
compared to him.
He had less injuries than your lookalike.
Could you imagine as well? Another player, could you imagine how much more they could have done if they never had as many injuries? Thomas Rosicky as well.
Yeah.
There's so many Arsenal plans.
Thomas Rosicky just made football look so easy, but he just wasn't available enough.
Yeah. Little Mozart.
You could say
Robin
that about
Robin Van Persie was another one that missed a lot of games for us, Van Persie.
We had one and a half good seasons with Van Persie, and then he fecked off.
That's what sucked
off.
He fecked off.
He fecked off. I had to put that in there with some emphasis, Dad.
Yeah.
Another one.
It's funny how he fecked off. Do you know what I mean? The little boy.
Another one.
How long were you mad at him about after that?
However, those pictures of him sat on a bed in his Arsenal kit, notwithstanding.
How long were you mad at him, Ray?
Tony, go ahead, Tony. Then Lawrence. Yeah, Tony.
How long were you mad at Van Persie after he left?
I was when Arsene Wenger allowed Van Persie to go. I was really, really irritated with that. Yeah.
But you know why that happened? Because I saw an interview with Arsene Wenger, and he said that you have to understand that when they done all of that investment into the stadium, which he was tied to, the banks wouldn't do loans unless they knew that Arsene Wenger was tied to it, and that whatever the finance was, it went over. Whatever the projection was, it went over. So when we had players that were coming up to have their contracts renewed, we couldn't pay those players the money to renew their contracts. So we had to sell them and then get players in on lower contracts. that wages that we could
have
pay.
sold him to the continent, though, right, for a little bit less.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, it's horrible that he went now. It's fucking disgraceful.
What did he go for? Like 20? Was it 20 million or?
I can't remember 12? What he went for.
18.
I can't remember. But I mean, as much as we, as much as when it comes to calling a player a Judas, he's right up there. Let's just rewind it back. Some of the goals that he scored for Arsenal were just like, do me a favor. This is like FIFA on amateur mode. Every time the ball left his boot, man, it was just like nestling into the top corner, literally nestling.
Yeah,
it was good stuff.
I know, and that's why it hurt. That's why it hurt, Stan, because we were literally handing them a title. We were handing Alec Ferguson his last
we've just said goodbye to a Dennis Bergkamp. We've just said goodbye to a Dennis Bergkamp, and then not long after that, a Thierry Henry. And you're thinking to yourself, like, the magic is gone, and then you got this geezer coming in. Do you know what I mean? And this geezer's just like taking it up from where it left off.
Yeah,
it's just so sad the way that it had to go. But a lot of it was down to us not being able to compete financially to what another team would pay.
Yeah, and then Man City came along, and we were able to still finance through selling, players to Man City.
Here's another player. Talking about players that we talk about players that are Judas and they let us down. Here's one I always remember, and I know that Lawrence is going to remember this one. Stefan Schwartz. Remember him?
Oh, I thought you were gonna. I thought you were gonna have a different name for me, Stan.
He literally went on strike. Do you remember him? He was from Sweden, wasn't he? Good player, great player. He was good at dead ball situations.
Midfield general.
Midfield. A midfield player. Do you remember him, Lawrence? Stefan Schwartz. Good player.
Only played one season.
Very technical. And then for whatever reason, he literally went on strike because he wanted to go somewhere else. And we were like, well, we want to keep him. He was like, well, I'll go on strike. Literally went on strike.
Did he go to Italy? So
who cares?
The player I thought you were going to mention, Stan, was Adebayor. That's the player I thought you were going to mention. Emmanuel Adebayor, where he ran the length of the field when he scored against us for Man City.
Yeah.
Can I just, Right.
Yes.
Okay. A couple of things. Okay. First of all, do you remember Alex Sleb?
Yeah. He was next to my list.
A fucking brilliant player, Alex Sleb. I used to love him. Yeah, but then he regretted it. Said he should never have left us.
Exactly. I was just about to say I was going to bring him up next. He said he regretted leaving Arsenal.
They had to go play for Barca, right? I mean, that's kind of a legacy thing to play for one of those big Spanish teams. Alex Song was another one.
Do you remember Alex Song was kind of rubbish for us for a while.
Over Mars?
He was rubbish. And then he got really good.
What about Nasri?
I always liked him.
Danny Ceballos right now. Danny Ceballos.
Don't even mention
from Madrid.
Stan.
Lawrence, what have you got? Which name do you have, Lawrence?
I said you can't mention.
Yeah, I was going to mention Samir Nasri, right?
Oh yeah.
But another Judas.
Yeah.
Again, I think again, right, Lawrence, another one where we couldn't improve the contract to what he should. You know what I'm getting? So because of the stadium, we've got to let these players go.
Ashley Cole, Stan.
I remember.
That was £5 grand a week difference. That was stupid. Stupid. We could have kept him. That was.
I remember when. When Van Persie left us, right?
Yeah.
I was annoyed as well. But then I thought about it. And I thought, well, you're Van Persie, and you see Arsene Wenger bringing in the likes of Emmanuel Iburi, Marouane Chamakh, Gervinho, and all players of that ilk to replace the likes of Henry, Bob Bergkamp, and Perez. and then you understand why he wanted to leave, because we weren't replacing these players with similar type players. We were bringing in a ton of shit.
Yeah.
Because of the reason I said, we had to get players that we would pay them less, right? Because we were like paying off the stadium. That's it.
You had Eduardo, then he snapped his leg.
Oh, Eduardo, what could have been?
February 23rd.
So good.
2008, February 23rd. I'll never forget that day. Never forget.
Yeah.
Again, that's another one where you've got like he was like a backup striker, right? But every time he did get his chance, you'd be like, God, this guy's knocking on the door. He's good enough. He could walk into any other team and do a job week in, week out. We're lucky to have him. That's where we need to be. We need to be back in that area where we've got an Eduardo, we've got a Sylvain Wiltord, we've got a Canu.
Yeah.
Who, can come in.
Yeah. Yep.
What about Carlos Vela? Do you remember Carlos Vela?
Carlos Vela.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. We gave up on Eduardo way too soon. The guy was class. He also he got his ankle snapped as well, and probably maybe didn't come back the same player as well. You know what I mean? Up in Birmingham.
He did decent when he went to Spain, but he was never the same after that. I mean,
no. We have a lot of players. We had a lot of players down through the years. Aaron Ramsey had the same thing. He did come back after a few years and put in, great shifts, but took a few years to overcome that leg break at Stoke. And the way those Stoke fans acted towards Arsenal that day and for a few seasons afterwards, nothing short of disgraceful.
Then you had Wilshere that was there for 13 fucking years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you've got to thank Arsene Wenger for that rivalry with Stoke, because he said, what was it, when we played Stoke, he said it was like playing rugby. Stoke were a rugby team, which pissed off Tony Pulis and everyone who connected with Stoke.
Yeah. But to have Aaron Ramsey as the centerpiece of that whole rivalry was wrong, in my opinion. They're laughing at him as he's getting stretchered off the field.
Yeah, I know.
Put in an ambulance to get his leg put back together again. You know what I mean? And that was a bad break. I'm not an expert in these things, but
but he broke both legs. He broke both legs that day, didn't he? It was such a fierce challenge.
Yeah, indeed.
Look, Lawrence has less than 30 days left now.
Yep.
Yeah.
A month away
close. Now. It's less than 30 days. I can't believe it.
So, listen, I think it's been a good chat. We're going to be here for another 15, 20 minutes maybe, and then we get out of here. It's been a good chat. We've gone down.
Is that an Irish time, Ray, which really means like 45 minutes?
No, it really means about 15 or 20, I think, to be honest. We've been going 2 hours, so we've gone a lot through the history of Arsenal as well, just by happenstance, just by talking, But it really when you talk about a history of Arsenal, it really brings you to appreciate where we are now in our journey in 2024. That we are a club under Mikel Arteta that I think, driven by Mikel Arteta and Edu, I think we can see we have ambition, right? I think we have ambition to get better and overcome the challenge of Man City this season. For me, I'm looking at Man City. I don't think there's anyone else out there to be looking at in terms of the league, right?
Well, you can't discount Liverpool.
Well, now you said that. I wasn't going to say that, Lawrence, but you can't just.
Yeah, well, I
New
mean,
manager,
I'm
maybe a
just
new
being
manager,
upfront,
new ideas.
New
You know,
manager, new ideas. Yeah.
New manager, new ideas. Salah probably be leaving. Maybe a couple of others. You know, that takes time. Club like
Yeah.
Liverpool.
Yeah.
The fans have
And
got to accept the guy as well. You know, there's a fans' acceptance at a club like Liverpool. There's a lot going on there.
yeah.
Chelsea might be a handful for the way they finished the season. And
Yeah. You have it. You have a
That's where
club in.
this is where we need to be able to capitalize before a team like Liverpool gets settled again.
This is a bit like the Leicester. Okay, it's Man City. Man City are going to be there, but this is a little bit like the Leicester City season, where everyone else had difficulties, but we had an opportunity in the Leicester season, and we couldn't do it. Okay, I'm not saying Leicester or City or Leicester, but the point is there that we have the main rivals we're looking at now is Man City.
But Ray,
yep.
Come October, November, we're going to find out what Man City are really all about, because that's when their court case starts.
Yeah.
So,
here's a question. Okay, go on. Sorry, Lawrence. I thought you finished. Sorry.
No, you go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, do you remember like when it was the rivalry was Arsenal, Man United? That was a proper rivalry. You know, every season, you know, if you were a betting person from the outside, you would say either Arsenal or Man United. It's going to be first and second somewhere in that order, those two teams. Are we in that position now with Man City? Do you think we're there, that it's stamped on that it's going to be Arsenal or City? Or, you know, could we still maybe find ourselves finishing in the third place and there's another team that still has that can still ask questions? Do you know what I mean? Is it that nailed on like it was back then?
Injuries.
So.
It depends on who we bring in during the transfer window. Because if he doesn't bring anyone in,
as it stands right now, before we change anybody around, are we in that same place when it used to be us and United? Is it us and City? Is it definitely us and them, or are we not quite there yet?
I think it's I think is it us and City, but you never know what with this investigation into them for their financial irregularities, how it's going to affect them on the pitch.
Yeah, there's a couple of variables there. What Lauren said, the court case.
The biggest variable is the fact that they said unless one of their players asked to leave, they're not to sign anybody.
At City.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, that could be a difficulty with the court case hanging over the club. Major players may not want to go to Man City and waste at least one season of their career with the situation where the bookies have said that Man City are more likely to get relegated than Arsenal due to the odds quoted. You know what I mean? The bookies do not. They're also saying they're more likely, they're the favorites to win the league, but they're also saying Man City are a stronger favorite to get relegated than Arsenal are because of this court case, because they literally do not know how it's going to affect Man City's season and how severe the punishment will be from the FA, which I go back and forth on, right? I go back and forth on thinking, as Stan would say, they've put all of this work into an investigation. They've crossed their T's, dotted their I's. They've licked the paper and turned the pages on each and every corner of the dossier. And they have a watertight case against Man City, which should be the case, right? But Man City have 500 lawyers behind them. And they're going to be.
It doesn't matter the 500 lawyers, right? They figured out these teams protest, go to sport arbitration, whatever the fucking thing's called. But none of these teams are ever found fully guilty. They always get off of it.
Money talks. Money talks in this situation, but I do hope that Stan is more correct than incorrect in this case. The dossier against City has to be strong. To your question, Stan, there would be just the variables of the court case, variables of injuries, and that would be it, really. Injuries and as is, if there's no more incomings to City or Arsenal, I think we're well equipped to challenge them again, and we need to be looking to improve our points total again past 89 and
Yeah,
getting
for sure.
into the 90s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a be
One or
tough.
two, one or two for us.
It's a be tough because third through six will be better this year than they were last year.
Who'll be better? They're what?
The teams third through six are gonna be
Yeah,
better than they were last year.
right.
Because
But
Newcastle's will be better, Chelsea will be better. So
yeah, well, we don't know about Chelsea because they were getting into a rhythm under Pochettino toward the end of the season, and they go ahead and they sacked him. You know, because
I know, and that was weird. They
Unknown
like
quantity now, isn't it?
yeah,
just like 3 or 4 days before that, they're like, "Oh,
so we
we're
have
gonna
another.
stick." They were
Yeah,
saying they were gonna stick with him, and they just all of a sudden fire him.
yeah, that's Chelsea. That's the BDS or whatever you call them. You
Big
know what I
dick
mean?
swingers, Ray. Come on, don't
That's
beat
the
around the
BDS.
bush.
So we don't know what
It's
they're
all
gonna
right. It's
do.
all right. Chelsea thinking like, yeah, we've got to follow the Arsenal model, and we can hire a coach that was with Pep and he's young and blah blah blah.
There
But the
they go.
difference is that Arteta has a connection to Arsenal. He's captained Arsenal. He's played in the league, and so players know of him and respect him. This guy at Chelsea doesn't have any of that. He's just a
Yeah,
coach.
and
He's just a
I,
coach who's never coached before, and now he's got to go in there and tell some of these players, do you know what I mean, who earn all this money a week,
you're
how to
right.
play football. It's a different.
Big
It's a
difference,
different
Dan.
thing.
Big difference, Dan, from going from Championship. Okay, Leicester were in the Premier League. They went to the Championship.
Yeah,
Now
but
to
he's
going
not.
to
He's not.
hundred
He's
million
not.
pound players.
But he's not won an FA Cup, has he? As a
No,
player,
no. And the one
it's a
thing I always
difference.
remember is the other thing as well is the owners have Arteta's back. You know, I still go back to that documentary where Arteta lost 3 games in the first start of the season, and you see Josh Kroenke saying you have to be aware of what's going on, but you also have to be steady. And he told Arteta, you know, keep your head down, keep fighting, and we're behind you. You know what I mean? That you won't get that at Chelsea. A manager will not get that at Chelsea from Todd Bowley. You know what I mean? So, what do we think to the start of our season, Lawrence? Well, you can see it on the ticker tape. It's been running the whole show.
Yeah.
18, 19 games.
Well,
Tough away
got
games.
tough away games. You know, Villa, Tottenham, and Man City.
Yep. In the first
yeah,
coming,
I mean the home games. You know, pretty. I wouldn't say pretty easy, but we should be picking up 3 points from each of them.
yeah, Wolves, Brighton,
But,
and Leicester. Let's say, yeah,
yeah. But as I said, those first 3 away games, you know, we've got to be on the front foot because that will determine on where the season's going to go for us.
yeah. Stan, we finished last season quite well, and we know what the tournament's going to be like with the players, holidays. The wives have to go on their vacations and their holidays. The wags have to go, and the players will come back. We'll probably start the season with a mixed team, not exactly the first 11 we want. And we've got Wolves at home to start with and Aston Villa away.
Yeah. Villa's one for me. Couldn't get points off them last season.
Revenge.
Right?
Revenge.
You know what I mean? Have to get points off of Villa. They're the ones that kind of rocked our boat a little bit last season. So we need to put that right.
Yep.
That's what I
Tottenham will
always
be a
look for.
tough one.
That's what I always look for. If there's a team that gave us a problem in the previous season, then for me, it's really important that we kind of like find a way to get around that.
Yeah,
We need to get around
and
Unai Emery. We need to put that ghost to
there's
rest. He's got this ghost that you need to put to rest, and he's won. He's managed the team. He fucked about with us in the Europa League, didn't he, that season? And he done it again last season with Aston Villa.
he
So
did
we
it
need to
with
sort of
Villa.
like
Yeah.
we need to get the better of Unai Emery and put that one to bed.
Look, I like Unai Emery as a person. He's not a bad
No,
guy, but
not at all.
we need to have 6 points. That was
Exactly.
we're gonna look at Tony. We're gonna look at a lot of places last season, and Aston Villa will be the first place to stop, having lost 2 against them.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
You know,
that's one. Then there's just the fact early on that we weren't putting these teams to the sword. We win 2-1 or whatever. We weren't just putting teams away, being more clinical. So still think we need that clinical striker. Don't see Kai being up there. I don't see Arteta putting Trossard up there, so we have to go to the market.
yeah. We got Tottenham and Man City. Tottenham will be waiting for us, Stan, at White Hart Lane. We kind of pulled our pants down, won the game 3-0. They got 2 goals at the end, but we kind of whitewashed them pretty easily.
Yeah,
When was it? April?
I'm not really bothered about them anymore, to be honest.
Okay. What can we expect from what's his name, Ange? What can we expect from Ange?
Well,
More
mate,
the same?
we're just gonna, listen, we're just gonna play our football, mate. That's all.
Oh,
That's all we're
mate.
gonna do.
Oh, mate.
All I
That's
want
how
to do
we
is win
play.
games, mate. Listen, mate, I came here to win games. That's all I want to do. So, that's probably going to be a little bit like he thinks he's like Russell Crowe in Gladiator. My name is Ange Postecoglou. First
Will we
knight from
see
Caesar the third?
So
Sorry.
you know the way the media builds managers up and they build a
I
narrative.
thought you were going to say Russo, Stan.
Will we see the media pick threads at Tottenham if they struggle again? Or will it be Ange is playing this brave football? You know what I mean?
Who cares? Personally, I don't.
Yeah. And then we got Pep Guardiola at the Etihad, Lawrence. So Tottenham and City, two games together after an international break, Lawrence.
I think isn't there a Champions League game?
Yep,
in between
them
those
as well.
2 fixtures.
Yep, yeah, that'll be a tough start.
So
League and Champions League first game, and then another league game at City.
yeah,
We're almost going to take our eye off the Champions League the first Champions League game. We're almost going to have to.
Yeah.
And play catch up the rest of the league, Champions League.
Yeah. You just you got to take these games one game at a time. You can't look ahead too far. As I said, if we could get a positive result at Tottenham, that could set us up nicely.
Yeah.
But
I mean, we'll be doing well to get 12 points. We'll be doing well to win all 4 of those games going into that City game, and City will have Chelsea away, Ipswich at home. Ipswich and New Boys might be tricky. West Ham away and Brentford at home. So, if Man City do things right, they'll be on 10 or 12 points when we face them.
I mean, I'm just looking at those fixtures at the bottom of the screen. I mean, I think we should be happy with 9 points from those first few games.
Yeah, from the first 4 at least. 9 points going into the City game,
Yeah.
Tony, there's as we mentioned, there's an international break there leading up to the Tottenham game. There's a Champions League game the following week, midweek. There's a Carabao Cup the midweek after that, another Champions League game, and then another international break. So, first 2-3 months, there's a lot of football in the first 3 months.
I hate the international breaks. Hate that you have two in the first 3 months,
Yep.
and usually we struggle coming back from any of them. And the first one's always stupid to me. First week of September, you just
Yep.
started the fucking season.
Yep.
Why are you having? You could have did international in the summer.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. I agree with you. I agree with you.
Because
Listen.
like Lawrence brought it up before, there used to only be but two international breaks, and this year we had
Yeah.
seven, which is insane.
The demands on professional footballers now is crazy. When you were talking about that, Tony, I'm reminded about something Stan told me a few weeks back. Back in the day, there was only 12 players going on games, and there was only one substitute to be used. You can only substitute one player. You know, that was crazy.
Lawrence remember
Back
that.
in Lawrence will remember that.
How far back was that?
What's that? Sorry, what was that you were saying?
When
Squads
teams would
were
only
13.
field 12 players,
Yeah.
a first 11 and one sub.
Yeah. There was no squads of 20 players for a game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you have a squad of 15? Was it a squad of 15 or where did it end?
No, I think when I started going to football, it was maybe 13, 14 players to select.
Yeah.
It
That's crazy.
was it's none of this. So let's have 25 players, and we'll
Yeah.
pick the best 11.
But now, and the demands, we're talking about a summer full of the European Championships, the
But
summer
you also
full
had
of
a reserve team, right?
Copa America reserve team. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
but like
was it,
going back to when I started going to football, I keep saying this, right? The Premier League was known as the first division. There were 22 teams, and the season would start in the last weekend in August, beginning of September, and they somehow managed to shoehorn all those fixtures between that date and the end of April, beginning of May. There were no international breaks at all whatsoever. There were sometimes you were playing midweek games in the league as well. The season would end with the cup final first week in May, and then you would get the home internationals, England, Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales. And then the season would finish in the middle of May, and then you had to wait 3 months for the new season to start. Your weekends had to be watching golf, tennis, and athletics.
yeah.
And it was so boring, and everyone was waiting for the new season to start.
Yeah.
And I say nowadays, no sooner does one season end, but another season begins. And it is coming to the point where you're going to have seasons overlapping one another because they're cramming all these Mickey Mouse tournaments into the calendar.
Well, we just had that World Cup, Lawrence. You know what I mean? In November.
Yeah, in December in Qatar.
Club.
Yeah.
World
Crazy,
Club
right?
Hopefully
Tiger
that's
and
the
Guru said,
last one.
love the home international. What, Tony?
So hopefully that's the last Winter World Cup we get.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, you never know what FIFA can do. It's crazy. So look,
Then you have our former coach being an idiot, wanting it every fucking year.
I don't know what's happened to Arsene Wenger. He used to be so logical when he was an Arsenal manager.
He was running the Olympic torch around Strasbourg today, apparently.
I saw that. But he has come up with some crazy ideas of having a World Cup every 2 years or every year. I'm
It
not
is
sure.
every year.
Crazy. Too much, Arsene Wenger. Too much. So look, our league starts with a lot of football in the first 2 or 3 months. There's a couple of international breaks in there. There's 8 Champions League rounds, which will go till the end of January, and then we're into knockout stages. And but oh, by the way, we have to have a squad big enough to. I don't really care about the Carabao Cup. I'm going to say it right now. If we are a club that are going to go for the Premier League and the Champions League, we can't have any part of the Carabao Cup. And I don't care
You
what you
do what you
say.
used to. You do what you used to, right? That's all under 17s,
Well, that's it. Then
all under
you
21s.
put the kids in there. You do that,
Minus your
Tony, and you
minus a
don't get
few
angry.
reserves.
Don't get angry then when you get knocked out because that's what you're doing.
I liked the approach. I thought it's the way
So
you should.
for me, I don't know about Stan, I don't know about Lawrence, I don't know about you, Tony, but for me, Carabao Cup, get out of here. FA Cup, yes, I would like to get to an FA Cup final and win it. Champions League and the Premier League. So
I mean,
the
eventually
So,
Carabao Cup,
one of these days, it'd be nice to win the
so
League Cup.
Ray, if we progress in the Carabao Cup to
yeah,
the latter stages of the competition,
yeah.
would you want Arteta to field the stronger team if we
Yeah,
got to the
yeah.
quarterfinals or semi-finals?
I wouldn't mind going out in a third or fourth round, but if we get to a semi-final, first and second leg, you want to get to a final, you want to win it. You do want to win a piece of silverware, but did it help Liverpool? I don't know
If
if it
you've gone
helped
that
Liverpool.
far, if you've gone that far,
Yep.
then you may as well just do everything in your power to secure it, right? Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah. But if we go out in the fourth round, Stan, after playing 2 games in the competition, I won't be here crying about it because we'll have fielded team like if Nelson's still there, if Eddie's still there, those players will be playing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
In the
if we go
Carabao
out in the
Cup.
second round, and again, like you say, it all depends on the team that we fielded. If it was the first 11, and they're gonna be like, "What the fuck?" But if it's like, the waifs and strafes, then it's just like it is what it is. You
I
had your
think
chance to maybe shine, but you didn't take it.
when we went out against West Ham in November of last year, we fielded a pretty strong team, but West Ham just wanted it more than us. You know what I mean? So
We did that with every game last year in the cups because, like I said, at least half the teams starting were starters. Then they'd bring on
right.
the
Well,
others as the only
one
thing
thing,
you weren't getting was the keepers weren't getting swapped. You just
yeah. And one thing was we came up against Liverpool and it was either going to be A or B, and we didn't beat Liverpool in that FA Cup game. But there you have it. I think we'll talk a little bit more about the fixtures in upcoming and more episodes. Touched on the
it
opening
doesn't
part.
matter, Ray. You play them all twice.
It matters. Sometimes listen, if you have a tough start, that means you have an easier run in, and that's what we seem to have is an easier run in. So, Tony, thanks for dropping in
Yep.
and being here. We're going to get out of here. Any final words, Tony?
No, but to me, that's the way you want it. You want that easy road out. I'd rather have it a little top loaded, but to me, I mean, Arteta's got to learn that you got to play young people. You got to play your reserves in these cup games instead
Yeah,
of playing the starters and getting them more wore out. Those guys, they're just for winning you the league or the Champions League.
yeah, yeah. We
However
hope.
much effort you want to put into that.
We hope indeed. Lawrence, thanks, Tony. Lawrence, thanks for being here. Any final thoughts, Lawrence?
Yeah, 30 days till Man United at SoFi. I'll be there.
I'm 51 till the start of the league season. I hope that you're going to see some academy players, so that'll be good. But I also hope that you see some of the big boys as well. there at SoFi. Stan, a few of the boys are in Marbella with Arteta. Stan, no final word. Hold your peace, Stan.
I'm done.
All right,
See
cheers,
you
mate.
later.
I enjoyed
There
this
you go,
chat. I
Mark.
hope you're going to eat now. Take care. See you later. This group of players need to win a domestic cup before we can win the Champions League. It's progression. You start at the bottom and then work your
No,
way up.
you don't.
These players
Come
need to taste
on.
victory. It happened for George Graham. We won the League Cup with George Graham. We're at least 2 years away. Yeah, you have to be in the Champions League and try to get through that process. Okay, we're out of here. Stan, thanks.
That's
Tony,
all a bunch
thanks.
of horse shit, right?
Take care, everybody.
Horse shit.
Horse shit.